Welcome to the Nick and Matt Show. Bringing the player interviews you want to hear and the hot topics you want to discuss. Recording live in studio. Here's Nick and Matt.
Whoa.
Whoa. There we go.
This is what happens when Nick and I are away multiple weeks. For those listening, you didn't see it, but it came up with Evan. Surprise, Evan. We're going to get to you in 1 second. This is episode 104. This episode is presented by Cosmic Disc Golf. You can find all of your disc golf needs at cosmicdg.com. Be sure to check it out. Look at my hat. I got a new fresh hat in the mail. It's pretty cool. Cosmic hat. So what's up, Nick? You're back from Worlds, and I don't know where back is, but you're here on with me tonight.
Yeah, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee right now. Be here for another day or so, and then I'm headed back to Virginia for about a day and a half, and then I'm flying up to New England for about a month.
Man, you're just all over, and so have I lately. We have not crossed paths, but here we are.
It's tough, dude. My body is freaking feeling it right now, too.
So, people this week, we got a few listeners who reached out to us. By the way, thank you for doing that. When you figure there's a problem out there, go ahead and do that. Spotify tried to cancel us, Nick. Spotify specifically. Apple Podcasts is like, you're cool. Like all of our other platforms are cool, but Spotify totally removed our show. Gone. We couldn't find it. You search for it. It's not there. Not linked to my account. Nothing. So thank you for reaching out to us. I sent them a nasty gram. No, I'm kidding. I wrote them and said, what is up? And they actually got back to me and they said, wow, on our end, something messed up. We deleted your show, but we found it. We found it and it's back up. So thank you for that. We are back up on Spotify. If there's a platform you'd like to hear us on, be sure to let us know. And if we can be so bold to ask, if you've been listening for a while, or this is your first episode, if you like the content, would you go rate us on those platforms? It really helps us out. Leave a review as well. It's the best way you can support us. All right, Nick, we've got a significant show lined up for tonight. The World Championships just happened. You were there. You're like, I participated. So what was the feeling on the ground?
Feeling on the ground when I first got there, I got there about 3 or 4 days prior, and I went out the first night at about 7:15 or so. I went out with Paul and Billy Engel, and we played a couple holes just at Emporia Country Club. This is my first time playing, these courses, and instantly it was just like, okay, for me personally, this is a bomber fest. I've got to throw it pretty much as far as I can on almost every single shot. A lot of forehands. And so I remember that first day we played like 6 or 7 holes, and my shoulder was already kind of like, I had just driven 10 hours from Nashville to get out there and tried to play as many holes as I could before the sun went down. And the amount of forehands that I'm throwing was pretty crazy. And so that was kind of a shock in the sense of like, I've never played a tournament where I've had to throw this hard every single hole. And I think not even just because I don't throw that far, it's like even the top players, watch Aaron Gossage, watch his round, how he bombs forehands the whole time. And so it was pretty new in that regards. I will say, like, I thought the tee pads at Emporia Country Club were pretty awful.
Hold on. We're going to get to all this talk.
Okay, all right.
We are going to get to it. I want to make sure I was going to say we flashed Evan, but no, we put Evan up on the screen for a second. And I want to make sure he's in this conversation here. Evan, welcome to the show. You officially beat me today using a disc that I have never seen used before. What disc did you use that I thought was that awesome?
So we got some new Statmando stat zones. They're a glow Z zone and got a little Statmando logo on it to commemorate our stat zone module on our site. If you haven't checked it out, there's so many different just stat pages. Just like we couldn't even get to all of them, so we just threw them all on this one page.
Stat zone.
Yeah.
Where can they find that?
So they're at Infinite Disc. If you just search Statmando on their site, you can easily find it. There's a lot of zones to look through. You can buy other zones too, but you should buy stat zones first and foremost.
Okay. I've got mine on the way. I found that with Infinite Discs, I had points lined up, and for every 1,000 points, it was $10. Dude, I found money at Infinite. And
that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, Nick's like, that's cool. I think I had $70 sitting in there, and so I bought a few zones. I got some comments. I love those. So thanks for sharing that. And by the way, I'm serious. Evan beat me today. We did something really cool. We actually ended up playing what we call Safari Round at Maple Hill. It was like this forecasted rainy day, so not all the tee times got filled. And Nick, we'll have to do it when you're back here. We'd be like, dude, let's go from here to this basket over there, and we've never played this hole before, and it was just so fun. Long story short, we went into a 4-hole playoff, really epic.
Okay.
Evan took it down. We bought him lunch. So
It's all about playoffs
Yep.
lately.
Dude,
And
you were in the playoffs. Yeah, it's and Paul's in the
Yep.
playoffs. Okay. So, Evan, would you do this for us? Would you give us a quick recap of Worlds? And by quick, I mean we're going to talk about a lot here, but this just basic what happened at Worlds.
yeah, so starting with the women, Kristen Tatar takes it down in pretty epic fashion. It was the largest win margin since 2009 when Valerie Jenkins won by, I actually don't have this in front of me, but like 12 or 14 strokes. I forget the number. I'm sorry, guys. But Kristen Tatar wins by 8 strokes. She does have the highest event rating of all time at Worlds in FPO, rounded to 1,001. She was the early favorite, was looking great, got a little close in round 3, but she kind of put her foot back on the gas and had, I think, a 5-stroke lead into the final round, and she did not disappoint the final round. Looked phenomenal all round and pretty much cakewalk to that victory. Over on the MPO side, we're having him on later, but Paul Macbeth gets number 6, and it was technically a comeback, 3-stroke comeback in the final round, which is the largest final round comeback ever in Worlds. The second highest was Paul Macbeth at 2 strokes in 2014. That also went to a playoff against Ricky Wysocki. That one went 7 holes. This one only went 1 hole. It took for Paul to take down Aaron Gossage, who had a phenomenal weekend. Aaron didn't stick the island on hole 16. Paul did, and he was able to tap in number 6. A huge moment for Paul. And just a fantastic final round, and not to overshadow Aaron Gossage, who I really thought he was going to win going to that final round. 3-stroke lead, even against Macbeth. He was looking phenomenal. He was throwing backhand, forehand, whatever he wanted on any hole, and just precision. It seemed like the moment got to him a little bit. He was not making those big putts that he was all weekend. I mean, notably on hole 17, Paul Macbeth hit, I think, like a 70-footer, and Gossage didn't have the best approach, had to go for about a 50-footer and just airballed it. Came back and had a great hole in 18 to force the playoff, but then, again, like I said, didn't make the island in the playoff hole. But still a fantastic weekend. Aaron Gossage had 2 bogeys all weekend, and I'm not counting the playoff one. He never finished that hole. It's out of regulation. 2 bogeys all weekend. They were both on Jones Supreme hole 1. He didn't bogey a single other hole all weekend. He birdied many more, and so he was phenomenal. Hats off to Aaron Gossage.
It was insane to watch in person.
Yeah, so behind the scenes here just a little bit, I apologize if I missed something. I had to actually get up from my seat, Evan, walk around to where you usually sit, and I had to plug something into my computer physically because people were saying our audio from me was only coming out a certain channel. I think we fixed it. But yeah, I'm assuming we talked about the basics of the recap. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump over to the leaderboard. Nick, if I say the name Tristan Tanner, what comes to mind for just Tristan Tanner in general?
A bomber, latitude 64. The dude can crush a dick. Excuse me. Jeez.
Easy there,
Slow
Terry.
down, Terry Miller.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry. That's just how wiped I am. He can crush a disc just as far as anyone, if not further than most people. One of the biggest things when I put the fire thing around me, nice. One of the things that kind of like really caught me off surprise was Tristan and I both started out in the B pool, and it was a little windy day one. Wasn't too bad. I played like crap, shot like 2 over, something like that. Was really disappointed in it. And Tristan Tanner pops off like a 13 down in the freaking B pool. He's winning by 6 strokes in the B pool. Like, he's technically winning the tournament at the moment. It was pretty insane. And it brought me right back to, I think it was 2020 Vegas, where he got top 3 or top 4, I think, at the Vegas tournament the year. I think it was just a glorified A tier. I don't think it was a Silver Series or DGPT event that year. But these are 2 courses that really honestly just fit his game. And so he rose to the occasion and he played absolutely incredible on them.
Absolutely. So Tristan Tanner's a name tied for 3rd. Chris Clemens. My reaction to Chris is that I've known him for quite a while because Steve Economos, right? Up here in New England. Steve played on like a lead card at Am Worlds with Chris Clemens. So he's been around quite a while. I want to say that's back 8-10 years ago or whatever. So
that was 2013.
Yeah, so close to 10 years. And he's been playing like he plays well. His lefty forehand is so nasty. And then to come out and place tied for third at Worlds, everything was feeling good for him, I'm sure. I mean, Evan, what you gave us a lot of stats here. What do you see that's notable about Chris Clemens?
Yeah, well, so Clemens had a great finish. Yeah, right. That's a nice payday. Clemens has been great at USDGC in the past. Of course, being a lefty and that being known as a righty forehand friendly or a lefty backhand friendly course. So Chris Clemens has been good there. Finished 12th at Worlds in 2019. So this is his new best finish at third. Kind of blows that away, and that's better than any USDGC finish he had. So definitely a monumental placing for Chris Clemens, like something we've kind of seen before, but this is the best of any that we've seen from him.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Clemens surprised performance here in my, and not surprise. All of these players can do it. I don't want to put it that way, but like impressive, right? So, all right, Anthony Barella, this guy, it's his limit is how I'm thinking of this. His limit seems so high with his skill level. He's still young. Is he the next? I say this about like Gannon, Burr, and others, but like Anthony Barella's already doing it. Is he gonna keep getting better? What's your take on that, Nick? What do you think? Nick was on a phone call.
Sorry about that.
We're all over tonight. That's okay, Nick.
Yeah.
Anthony Barella. What about that guy?
Oh, funny enough, I was just talking about him.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Funny
go ahead.
enough. No, I'm just saying, like, what do you think, Anthony Barella at Worlds this year?
It was awesome. I mean, if AB absolutely murders the disc when it comes to power, forehand, and backhand. His putting, I think, over the last few weeks has also gotten a lot better. I think he's just someone who's prone to making that little mistake when you shouldn't be making that mistake. Like Aaron Gossage this week just really didn't make any mistakes. AB is one of those players where like he'll go to over crush something and turn it over just that amount that he didn't need to, and then it turns into mistakes. But I mean, a top 10 finish for him is pretty incredible, because I know he plays, pretty well here usually, just because of the way the courses are set up. But that was huge for him.
His event best finish, if I'm looking correctly at the Statmando charts here, is 26th prior to this. So a 7th place finish is awesome for him. Yeah. And he's shooting above his rating for sure. Anything else stand out to you, Evan?
Well, let me butt in really quick. It's tough to talk about previous events at this event.
True. True, it rotates.
When you look at the DDO this year, they were playing in, from what people have been telling me, consistent 25 to 40 mile per hour winds. Like those big banner things that they have for ad sponsorships, they said they were practically falling over and coming out of the ground. This event, I don't think we got above 15 miles per hour the whole time. And like even that, I honestly think is pushing it. I think day 1 and day 5 may have been the windiest ones, with like 2, 3, and 4 realistically not being that windy at all. Like for me, they definitely were not that windy, and I absolutely hate the wind.
Absolutely. Anything else stand out to you about Barella, or did we nail it, Evan?
Yeah. I mean, just to comment quickly, that 26th is his best Worlds finish in his history, which, I mean, also to Nick's point, is windy compared to not windy is the same as a new course completely. So the course has obviously changed from year to year at Worlds. But Anthony Barella, I mean, I did have him in my podium as a kind of crazy wild horse, not to toot my own horn, but he finishes 7th, and he was looking destined for the podium until he kind of had a poor final round, I believe. Was looking really good, and then just kind of was out of it, and I think it got to him a little bit. But he looks fantastic. He was I believe in school for a while, as like we've always been talking about in the last couple of years, as a young up and comer. But you have to wonder how much he is prioritizing disc golf. I mean, kind of like Isaac Robinson, who popped on earlier this year and won Idlewild. AB, now that he's maybe focusing on disc golf more, I would assume, being out of school, he definitely has the distance. And Nick, as you're saying, his putting's getting better. Like he's got to put it together at some point. I see him continuing on the trend of at least top 10s when everything's on his game.
How about the name Paul Macbeth? No, I'm kidding. Not Paul Macbeth. I do want to mention this because our show has Paul Macbeth in the title as an interview, and this will be his first live interview following tournament day's completion, as far as I understand it. And Paul Macbeth, we've lined him up. He will be on for those who are wondering, they want to check out and come back or whatever. They're here for the interview in it's probably about 45 minutes. And you're like, wow, podcasts last that long? Yeah, the Nick and Matt show, we do it. So 8 o'clock or so, Paul will be on, but we're going to be talking about really interesting things that Statmando brings, topics that happened at Worlds that we think are notable and worth talking about. Here's a name for you, Nate Sexton. This guy, I looked it up and I did my own little stat. Maybe you have this stat, Mando. This is his third consecutive Worlds that he's placed inside the top 10. That to me is really impressive for somebody who's not since COVID even like really touring hard, but he's keeping his game at least at Worlds to be able to finish strong or play strong. What does that tell you about Nate Sexton's game, Nick? Like, he can show up at Worlds at courses that are bomber courses, the whole 9 yards, and still place top 10 3 years in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think kind of looking at his page right now, you're looking at like he's not having an incredible year. He's only got one top 10 outside of this tournament, and that was at Portland Open. But you look at 37th at Vegas, 25th at Texas State's. Like, those are pretty open courses as well. I know Texas State's isn't as much, but like Vegas is a very open course. And Nate, prior to the tournament, was talking about how these courses are just bomber fest, like accurate bomber fest. And Nate's not the furthest thrower in the world, but one of the things that it's just safe Sexton. You know, he's just usually playing safe. He hits putts. He rarely makes big mistakes. And I could bet if you go through his whole scores throughout the whole tournament, he probably didn't double bogey more than one hole, if that. So someone who just consistently plays safe and still has good distance. Nate will say he doesn't have like elite level distance, but he has good enough distance to make his game really work. And, you know, we've seen it work at courses like USDGC or Ledgestone back when it was all Eureka. So he makes it work at big events.
I've learned so much from Nate Sexton, and obviously I'm not a professional disc golfer, but like when I go out to try to improve my game, he always says, throw the shots that you have in your bag. Like, as in, don't try to manufacture something you're not good at, play to your strengths, he always says. And where is that strength mark for you? Play to that. Don't try to play outside yourself. And I've learned that. That's why I'll throw a comet shot to a landing zone as opposed to trying to reach something extremely far outside where I might get it. And I think that's what he demonstrates over and over, that after especially 5-round tournament, if he plays that way, like, he averages so high. And I think he's just done that now 3 years in a row, minus the COVID year. Obviously nobody did. But okay, what about the name Eric Oakley? This one to me was like, it put a smile on my face. I was surprised and smiled and said, wow, good for him. So like, what do you think, Evan, Eric Oakley?
Well, he's a name that, as the tour has gotten more full of fantastic players, that we've kind of talked about him less and less each year. But he did have a good showing at Sula. He went over to Europe, made a name for himself, and we got to hear about him again. He was playing great out there. But to come back and do it at Worlds, I think is a huge, huge boost to him. He's a guy who's been grinding. I think he's played more Disc Golf Pro Tour events than maybe anyone. There's maybe one or two players that have played more. He just grinds all season long, and getting this is just the confidence that when you're grinding for so long and maybe you're not getting those top 10, top 20 finishes, it can be tough. But this one's going to fuel him, and that's going to be awesome to see, especially him being a guy who is outside of the cut, I believe, for a few of the postseason events, maybe MVP, I think, sitting outside the cut for MVP and looking outside for the Tour Championship, at least before World. So now this big finish, he's got to be feeling good. It's a huge win for him, even though it was a top 20 finish.
All right, Nick, Chandler Kramer. The name Chandler Kramer came up at the European Open. The guy pushed and pushed Paul Macbeth, and he comes out to Worlds. This is his first Worlds ever, right, Evan? Yeah.
Yes.
And he comes out and he gets tied for 20th. What do you think about Chandler Kramer? Does this tell us anything about him that maybe we weren't sure of before?
I think as we've talked about him more and more, and we saw out in Europe how precise he is with throwing the forehand, I think these courses just really set up for his game in that regards. There are a couple holes that don't set up for it perfectly, but there are plenty of holes on each course that just really favor and love that turnover backhand or that solid 400 plus foot distance forehand. And so we've seen the consistency coming at him over the last few tournaments. So him to be able to come out, make the putter work, put the shots inside circle 2, circle 1. You know, if you're in circle 2 every single time, it's usually, you know, for how like less amount of the wind that we had out there, it's easy to get up and down for pars. The only time you're bogeying is if you go out of bounds. And for a lot of these players that can just shape the shot so much better, they don't go as out of bounds as much as you would think. as much as like people like us four would do. And
Speak for yourself. I'd do it more than you.
So seeing Chandler, it's great for him. I think it's awesome. First World Championships. That's pretty incredible. And that top 20, I think it was top 20, right?
Yeah, tied for 20.
Yeah, 20th. Yeah, tied for 20th place. I mean, that's an awesome confidence boost going into the end of the year as well. It's crazy. We talk about going into the end of the year, and we still have some of the greatest tournaments happening. GMC, MVP, Pro Tour Championships, USDGC.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, still an insanely incredible last part of the year. So
absolutely. And these last two names in MPO that we're going to talk about tonight, well, I mean, I can keep the floor open, but our plan right now at this point is James Conrad. So you mentioned strong forehand, power forehand players seem to have I don't know if we'd call it an advantage, but a smaller advantage maybe. I don't know how you want to say it, but James doesn't have a forehand that he likes to throw. I've seen him do it. It's get out of jail. I'm sure it's better than mine, even when he does do it well. But tied for 38th for our previous reigning world champion tells you something. And the biggest thing that stands out to me is the course type. And that's why Worlds is so interesting with the rotating events that it is, because last year the Fort allowed him to be able to keep up in the sense of throwing his putters the way that he does, the best in the world, through tight wooded fairways. Throwing it in, obviously, his putter to push a playoff in last year's World Championship. But to see him tied for 38th, here's something that we said, and I hate to rail on this, but it's worth noting. He did not win an event at all last year. He won the World Championships. Awesome. What a time to do it. And he has not won any event since then. I just want to put it out there. It's really interesting how disc golf works. He's an elite player. The World Championships are its own unique thing at this point. They rotate. We see different course layouts, golf courses included. But with that name also, and I'll let you react to the James Conrad if you like to, but I feel like, not more importantly, but Eagle McMahon, what an interesting tour he's decided to have this year, partially due to injury. He comes out to the European Open and absolutely slays it. Only one person, Paul Macbeth, able to even keep up and have a chance at it. But he ties for 38th here. I heard something about a piece of glass. What do you think, Nick?
I was talking to Eagle during one of the practice days, just passing by him. I was playing around with Chris Dickerson and just passed by Eagle. I said, hey, man, how are you liking kind of being a little bit more picky and choosy about your tournaments? He said, oh, it's incredible. I can heal up my body nicely. I feel rejuvenated coming out to events. It puts, maybe a little bit of added pressure to do well because you're playing so few events now that the ones that you do go out to, you want to be doing really well at them. So there's that added pressure, I think, there. But at the same time, he's getting more time off than other pros are right now. So for him, I think even, we talk about European Open and he absolutely murdered it. Did incredible with very little forehand, if no forehand at all. I mean, I think just kind of pitching out here and there, he would throw a forehand. But this is a course that, like I've said a couple times already tonight, it does favor having that power, accurate forehand. You can get away with not having it. I think you could probably find a player in the top 15, 20 that maybe got away, like Garrett Gerthy.
Okay.
Garrett Gerthy doesn't have a solid forehand, and he got 23rd.
Okay.
I think it is doable, but I think having that forehand is just a huge step in the right direction for a tournament like this.
Yeah.
That, I think that it just didn't set up for him as well. And then I think when, Eagle's still a young player. And so when he kind of sees the chances of becoming a world champion this year slowly slip away, I was talking to someone and they were like, yeah, he's just throwing dumb shots now. And the whole glass situation, I'm not really sure what happened with that. Supposedly he put his hand down in the dirt to try to get some dirt on it and dry it off and cut his hand open. I'm not sure. And I'm not saying that it didn't happen because I'm pretty sure it did.
It was on live coverage. You could hear Eagle say something along the lines of, I found a piece of glass or something. So.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's our MPO. Well, Evan, do you have any reaction to either James or Eagle on that? Or any other insights that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll add to both, but real quick James finished 10th at DDO earlier this year. Sorry, speaking of James. James Conrad finished.
Eagle's vlogs in the chat, so let's say it to his face, Nick.
We want to know about the glass.
No. Like, it's interesting, Eagle. We're talking a little bit, and it's fun that you jump in the chat here. It's weird to talk about people to their face, I guess.
His ears were tingling.
He goes, my ears are tingling.
Okay, good. My ears are tingling. But like we were just saying, he smashes at European Open, Eagle, we said. And we're talking about your interesting schedule because it both allows you to heal and rest up. Obviously, that's great. But what does it do? And I'm not talking to you specifically, Eagle, here. I know you're listening. But what does it do for somebody if partly due to injury, I get it. But what does it do if you're playing a certain amount, you limit your events, and then in that season, you come out and you smash one of them, but the others, you kind of fall off? What will it do? And is that your intention? I'll ask Eagle if he wants to answer this. Is that your intention for like all seasons going forward, to really limit and pick and choose only the biggest events? It's just an interesting thought. And we'll have to have you on, Eagle. I know we've tried to line it up before. We'll do it again. We totally appreciate what you're doing for the sport.
Well, to continue on Eagle then, is what I think it is, if you are not playing all the events as Eagle has, and of course you got to the point about injury, but it opens yourself up to that scrutiny, so it's another thing you have to overcome in that sense. This kind of poor finish at Worlds, poor finish to Eagle standards, of course. I mean, a top 40 at Worlds is still incredible. But like, it opens you, like, people are now going to comment like, oh, maybe he should have played, Ledgestone or something to kind of get the things flowing. People are going to say all of this, so it's another barrier to overcome. I'm not at the top of this disc golf game. I'm not that level. I don't know what it feels like. To me, I would say playing like at least once a month would be better. But Eagle knows what Eagle thought he better than anyone else. So if that's the best to him, then it's the best to him. And he still might feel the most confident coming into Worlds with 2 months of rest, knowing he is fully healthy. And that's just what it is. Absolutely. But it is another barrier of media scrutiny, fan scrutiny. Every Instagram comment, if he says, hey, like 38th wasn't where I want to finish, all comments are still going to be like, well, like, it could still be you weren't playing as much. Okay. And that's just something else that happens.
Eagle responded. He said it's definitely a luxury, and you guys put it spot on. There's more pressure. So he does feel more pressure. Here, so we don't need to belabor this point on Eagle. He was one of our topics of conversation with the MPO results. Just imagine with, obviously it sounds so like straightforward. If he had won European Open, and then he won Worlds or placed top 3, right? And then he went and did it at USDGC and won, or placed top 3. Like, and those were the events he chose to play, or maybe one other or 2 others, right? You would be like, hot fire season. He picks and chooses, plays 4, 5, 6 events, and like, that's all he has to do because he's placing well. How long could you do it where you weren't placing well before you needed to restart that tour again to be fully involved in all the events? That's for us to speculate about, Eagle. We totally support you. Can't wait to see you out here at some point again as we get into the playoffs. All right, so let's move over real quick before we move into FPO. There is a product, Evan, you were actually talking to me about it today. We're going to have to get you some more. What was this product you told me exploded on your move?
Yeah, it was the is it the lotion? Am I saying it correctly?
Yeah.
From
Hempfield
cream. Botanicals.
Muscle recovery.
Like, my foot's hurting right now. Just dealing with a foot injury. Maybe I need to take 2 months off like Eagle is to feel good. But can't quit that grind. So need things like this to help me out and to recover well.
This muscle recovery, and we always talk about the differences between these, but this one to me, when I apply it, it has, first of all, I call it minty. It's like a minty fresh, and it has that cooling touch sensation on top of the CBD. It is just wonderful. I go to it when I have flare-ups of tendonitis, or if my muscles feel sore. Even after yesterday, I weed whacked for hours around my property. I totally felt like I needed some. I went in, found it. The spots that were really sore and sensitive, I used the salve. The spots that just needed the general muscle recovery of aches and pains, I used the muscle recovery cream. And then I go for my Hempfield Botanical chapstick, the one that Hannah says I apply like a man. Nick, I know you still like that product as well. Hempfield, is it working well for you?
It is. I need more of it. I guess that's what I'll say about that.
That's what Evan says. So we're going to order up more for the show.
I need a lot more of it.
We're going to order up more for the show, and we're going to keep doing that. As we always say, go use code Nick and Matt's on screen. Nick and Matt, HempfieldBotanicals.com. 20% off your order. If you're using something else, make this your next choice for purchase. They're supporting the show. We want to support them. All right, moving in to FPO. But let me give Eagle the time of day here. He said something in the chat. I've always liked playing less events than others in general. I'm a homebody, so I like my R&R. So that was what we're saying. Like, everybody knows themselves. And for him, it feels like he is going to say, I know what I need to do. And then one more comment from him here. This year is an off, quote unquote, off year in my mind. That's something I think was important. I wanted to hear that. And I'm glad you said that, Eagle. Playing majors is bonus. I'm doing what I can. So I play 15 to 20 big events next year. Wow. Okay. I'm doing what I can so I can play 15 to 20. Okay. So there, that's a great update, Eagle. Thank you very much. In fact, if at any point you want to get on the show, you just send me a message or we'll get you on. We'll send you a link. You can be right in the show. All right, let's talk FPO. Nick, or actually I was with Nick, I think, last. Henna Blumroos, Evan, what do you think? Second place, Henna Blumroos.
I mean, this is huge for her. She's had numerous podium finishes at majors before, but they've all been in Europe. To do this one in the U.S., her best U.S. major finish ever is incredible. That being said, like, she could have easily have won this. As great as Kristen Tatar play, Henna was way better off the tee and just driving in general. It all came down to putting, and while Kristen nailed her putts, Henna really struggled, especially late down the stretch. She had a few just where you're like, oh my goodness, like I just feel so bad right now. It was like a 10-foot miss. She goes 10 feet long and then misses that one too. And it's just, it was tough to watch because she is so good off the tee. And this is almost exactly what we've been saying about Evelina all year. But that being said, she still got a second place finish, which is still incredible. I mean, Pete's the likes of Paige Pierce, Katrina Allen, Valerie Mandohano, who's been having an incredible year. Like, Henna looked a class above them all this past week.
Okay. I've had the privilege of filming and assisting Terry Miller on the Disc Golf Pro Tour back before all these camera crews were lined up. And I filmed Henna and Evelina at Las Vegas Challenge and Wild Horse Course. And man, I remember that was my first exposure to watching Henna throw. And I was literally in awe. I would say impressed, but it's not hard to impress me. She's way better than me. But I was in awe just of her strength-controlled throw. Evelina's on a different level with her strength throw, but Henna was keeping up and seemed very controlled with her throws. Henna Blumroos, I feel like you deserve to be here a lot earlier than you are right now. That's my take on it. Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, it was insane to watch. I was fortunate to go out the final day and at least catch the last 9 holes of it. And there were spots where I think that added pressure of this the final round. Kristen's playing incredible right now. And Henna just missed some putts that you're like, you haven't been missing those all weekend. And now all of a sudden this last round is coming up. Kind of you can maybe equate it to Aaron Gossage, who was hitting those 25, 30 footers all tournament. And then in the final round was just short or just too above the basket on them. So that added pressure, I think, was huge. But I think we've all said it. She absolutely crushes the disc. Not as far as Evelina, but I would even say more accurate. And it was cool to watch. And then just being able to watch Kristen dominate was great.
Right. Absolutely. So talking about Henna, and I want to also move it into more FPO players here, but at the same exact time, we're trying to actually see if we can line Eagle up to get him in the show real quick. Oh.
And now,
exclusive.
For a Nick
exclusive. Yeah, we're going to have Eagle on if we
Eagle's
can.
coming on.
Okay. Your green screen's messed up.
Oh, no.
Okay. Paige Pierce. While we do this, I want you to react to Paige Pierce. Evan, give us the Paige Pierce stats because this is interesting. She usually shows up at Worlds in a bigger way. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the first time she's finished outside the top 2 since 2012. I mean, Paul Macbeth, we talk about his similar streak. She had it for almost just as long, but then unfortunately lost it this year. But fifth is just as a disappointment as second to Paige Pierce. She wants that 6th time so badly, and I've heard other people say this, and I might agree. She almost wants it too badly. She wants it too much. She tries too hard, practices too hard, and then puts all this pressure on her, and it's so hard to live up to the standards of Paige Pierce. We saw her kind of make a comeback in round 3, but then immediately lose it with some bad putts that she was just over aggressive on, but that's always her MO, and I get it. And then she follows it up with an eagle, but it didn't look like normal Paige this week, while Kristen's just calm, cool, and collected, getting all these birdies, maintaining pace. Paige looked like she was just kind of all over the place, trying to do too much, and then having it kind of, kick her in the butt at the same time. I have no doubt 6th time will come for Paige Pierce, but it just doesn't look good right now for Worlds. She was so close last year, of course, she had it, but this year I don't think it ever was a question after that 3rd round, like midway through. You're just like, it's not this year for her.
Okay. Yeah. You can't overreact. But many times during the week, my wife's interested in disc golf. She knows every player's name. She knows it probably better than half of our listening audience. She likes disc golf as a general, like, we're all involved in it. She likes to follow it. And she's like, what's up with Paige, right? And I tell her my opinion is that she doesn't play like Nate Sexton. If she did, she would place average higher every event, I think. You wouldn't have maybe all the wins that she has, which is great, but you're also going to have this fluctuation of her playing super aggressive at times, or maybe the stats don't say she should. Now, that's not her style, just like we talked about each player knowing their own. But I do think for her, it's something in the offseason to try to decide if that's what she, like, how does she want to handle it, right? Like, what does she want to do with her game? Do you agree, Nick? What do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. She's such an incredible player. I think there's so many added pressures going on in her life right now. I think with the documentary coming out and wanting that to kind of explode in the way that she would want it to it's, you know, once again, trying to get that 6th world title, which literally puts her above everyone else in the FPO division. I think there's so many added pressures right now that, you know, kind of in the same way where it's like, why are you making So
yeah,
I was going to say, Ben, you're on the wrong screen.
we brought in Eagle, everybody. It was a little surprise guest there. That's so funny. We got to tell our guests that we won't do that to them next time. But Eagle, welcome to the show. Can you hear us okay? Awesome. So,
all right, so now we got to say all the nice things, guys.
Yeah, all the nice things.
Nick and Matt are live right now. Let's see what they're talking about. And then I hear my name. I'm like, oh, wow. Perfect timing.
So we cut off the first 5 seconds of your audio, but we just fixed it for everybody. So you'd heard us talking about you somehow, some way. It's the way the world works. And here we are. So first of all, what's that like, Eagle? What's that like to be the place where you tune into a show and people are talking about you?
Oh, gosh, I don't even really know what to say. I guess you can just say it's different than most people.
It's different, yeah.
Yeah.
I've had the privilege of hanging out with your buddy Simon often enough, and it's fun to just feel it out and be like, you guys are normal people, but you get an unnormal life, and that's just the way it is right now. You've done some pretty spectacular things. So we didn't have any questions lined up for you, but you made it into our list of MPO players to talk about, and you were tied for 38th. I'm presuming you're not happy with tied for 38th, I'm sure. So what was it about this event that didn't go your way?
I don't really know, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, I do know, and I'm trying to digest this whole experience and figure out what I did wrong, where are my faults in my mindset, my preparation. And I felt pretty confident, honestly, to start. I was on lead card leading the event after round 1, and round 2 wasn't too good, but I managed. I was still in the top 10. It wasn't until round 3 where I really hit some turbulence. I was after 4 holes, I was 3 under, got 3 in a row, and I was just like, okay, I'm making my way through this tournament, and I'm starting to rally a bit. I rubbed my hand in the dirt to dry it off because it's like 90 degrees, it's hot, and I wanted a better grip. And I nicked my finger on a piece of glass, and it started bleeding everywhere. And it really wasn't that bad of a cut, but I had to line up my tee shot. I had like the 30 seconds in my mind, and I was trying to get it to clot. I had super glue. I didn't have sports tape. So it was just a whole whirlwind that, threw me off my game. I missed an easy putt that I'd expect to make to go, 4 for 4. And I bogeyed the next hole. So like my whole mindset really got thrown off there. I was playing with tape on my finger the rest of the round. I just kind of hit a wall, so to speak. And after that round, I dropped pretty significantly. I think I went down to like 20th place. And I've had this weird pattern at Worlds for the last couple of years where it's usually around round 3. Like I get off to a whatever start and just not really going my way. I'm always like 10 strokes back after round 3, and you're not out of it there, but
Mhm.
you just know how much work it's going to take and how everything has to fall in place.
Mhm.
And previous years I had the determination to fight myself back to the top 10, and it was just a very familiar feeling. And I hate to say that I kind of gave up, but I definitely lost a lot of my my focus, and my fortitude definitely slipped away from me. And it's not something I'm proud to say, but I take responsibility for that. I could have focused more, made better shots, and it wasn't the best effort for me, to tell you the honest truth.
Interesting thing brought in the chat here. Maybe just a quick reaction to it is, does the Pro Tour have opportunities for like an injury timeout, if you will? Have you heard anything about that? Like if you were to roll your ankle, how long do you get before they start stroking you?
That's a great question. I probably should know the rules better than
I don't know if there is a
like
rule for that. If anybody knows that, let us know. But I mean, if you cut your hand significantly, I know you said it's small, but let's just say you had a large laceration. Like, do you get a timeout? I think that's something that's interesting to consider.
The one thing that was brought up, like after my finger was taped up, they said that like I could have took like 5 minutes as like a an injury timeout.
Oh, interesting.
So to speak. But I had no awareness of a rule like that, because I definitely would have utilized that. So that's definitely some knowledge that I should seek out in the future, because it could definitely save you some struggle. But
I'm laughing.
But cutting my hand, I got a lot of people send me messages like asking how it was. It wasn't that bad, but
Right.
it was more the mental impact. And I take full responsibility for it. Like while it is unfortunate, you can even say it's unlucky. I could check the dirt and make sure that there's no glass in it. I could have a new whale sack. I could have a bag of dirt from Colorado. So things like that are avoidable. So being a top level player, being just for the sake of the conversation, a world champion requires optimizing each and every situation. And, it's always a reminder when you play bad, it's easier to take lessons from not performing optimally to apply them later on. So, that's what I'm going to do. And I commented early on, this is an R&R year. I'm still dealing with an injury. While I got through the whole tournament throwing backhand, it would be nice to have that forehand. When the backhand's firing on all cylinders, I feel like I am just as good. But when having a forehand definitely takes some of the pressure off of always having to throw these silky, smooth shots. So, the goal is to train the lefty more, get the forehand back, have the whole package again. It just takes some time.
Absolutely. Now, someone mentioned you could just go to the bathroom, and as long as it's reasonable amount of time. But I want to also say, and I'm sure Nick has a question or two for you. I also want to say, you haven't been on the show since your European Open. We tried. You were on vacation. That's cool. We want to respect that. I want to say you're on here talking about, my poor play. But the reality is, Eagle, you came out in a way this year that we haven't seen in a long time from anybody. It was epic that Paul was even trying to keep up. I mean, there was a lot going on there. And I just want to say congratulations for the European Open win. That was fantastic. What a great show that was. I mean, literally great, epic. I'm on a couple different disc golf shows, and that's all we could talk about, how amazing that performance was. So I want to get that out there for sure. All right. Well, what's your plan? I saw in the chat there, and we read it off. For this year, you said that you feel it's kind of an off year. Next year, you're planning to tour fully. Or is that kind of what your hope is?
Yeah, I might pick and choose some events. It really depends on how good I'm feeling in the off season. My shoulder's feeling leaps and bounds better than it has in a long time, but it's still, I still got to train it. I still got to get it evaluated. So after USDGC, I want to make sure I'm taking all the right precautions, working with professionals,
right?
To get back out there. But fingers crossed. I want to play 15 to 20 big events. Have try and be in the top 8 of the Elite Series, the Disc Golf Pro Tour again. Just the standard year. So that's what I'm hoping to get back to in 2023.
Hole 1 Jones. Is that the right place for an island hole to start out a tournament round like that, where you choose to lay up and it's super unexciting for everybody? Or should we put that somewhere else in the course? What do you think?
I definitely think that's it seems like 17. 17 is a good number for an island hole.
Okay.
16 or 17 coming down the stretch, because it definitely creates some drama. So I think starting off, I think it's you don't want to have to lay up to start your round.
We're gonna talk about that later, but I just wanted your quick opinion. Nick, you got anything for Eagle before we let him go?
No, you guys kind of hit the nail on the head. I guess the only thing that I would talk about is, what do you think of the courses this year in general? Being a World Championship caliber event, what do you think of the courses just in general?
Running Worlds is a major endeavor for whoever does it, and my personal opinion on the courses themselves, they could be looked at as a little lackluster. You can say Jones and Country Club don't provide that much contrast from one another. But I think more importantly, you have to look at Emporia for the infrastructure and DD as an entity to run a big event, and they are more than enough qualified. So I think it was a good Worlds. In the future, I definitely want to see some more challenging, more versatile courses. But I think when it comes down to a venue in town to host it, Emporia is really good.
Yeah, so I didn't look at the recent stats, but I'm pretty sure you're making it into the playoffs. What do you think about that? You looking forward to it? Is it a different thing for you? Like, what's your goal there? To make the finale, I'm sure.
The Disc Golf Pro Tour finale.
Yeah.
I was talking to my friend, or I was talking to Joey Tamale actually, and he said that I was in like 40th place, and I don't think that qualifies me.
Evan, get on that. Evan, Statmando, get on that.
Eagle's sitting in 40th, so as of now, he would have a spot in both GMC and MVP. I'm assuming you're going to skip those.
Yeah,
but those would launch you up more. But I believe, I don't want to be quoted on this, but I believe since you won a tour event, being European Open, that you do have an automatic bid as a play-in to the Pro Tour Championship. So that's kind of like the almost like a qualifier beforehand. I'm not sure the exact terms. I need to review it a little bit more. So people are going to say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. But it's something along those lines.
Yeah, I am completely unaware of that. I'll definitely look into it, because I'm going to be looking to book my USDGC trip soon, and knowing that might make my trip a little bit longer. So we will see.
What if we told you that it's not happening at Hornets Nest? Did you know that?
I heard that somewhere, but I haven't heard where else it's going to be.
They know where it's going to be. They just haven't released it yet.
We might know where it's going to be too, Nick. If I start feeding out some things like looking at Nevins, maybe. Is that a course down in Charlotte? Nevins? Anybody know? Okay, we'll talk more about that. I know they haven't released it yet, but they didn't say I couldn't. I have sources, people. I have sources. But Eagle, if you're not making it around to New England this year, then I won't see you here, but it's possible we catch up another time. It's great having you swing into the show like this. I'm sure we could talk for hours, but we're going to let you go because you were the pre-show tonight, and I say that with all graciousness to how great you are. But Paul Macbeth is lined up and ready to go here in a little bit. So
Matt, if you have a quick second, let me just read this. So for the play-in event that's right before the Tour Championship, it's for the 31st and 32nd seed in MPO, but it's also has 4 reserved spots for any player who won a DGPT Elite Series or PDGA Professional Major but did not qualify based on points.
Oh, snap.
So Eagle, you would at least, at the minimum, have a chance for the play-in. I'm not sure the exact. I believe the play-in is the top 4 players would then get into essentially the top 32, and then that would be the 17th place to 32nd would play in that first round, and then the top 4 of that would go on in so on.
Oh boy. Well, okay, I'll look into it. I gotta take in a lot of information.
There was a
now.
Jomez practice round where you said Statmando, get on it, and we made a little meme about it for Evan here, and I think it's starting to go around for the Statmando fans. So that was cool of you. I don't remember what the stat was specifically. Evan, did you get that stat for?
Oh man, I got to dig through because we did get it. We were trying to figure out exactly how Germ got to those numbers because I don't think we gave him that. But there was someone that you would surprise who was in like the top 10. What was it, most cash per event? But I don't have it in front of me, so I'm sorry. But we can get to that to you if you need it.
Next show.
Statmando, get on it. That's what he says. All right. Great having you, Eagle. Totally appreciate it. The platform's yours. Do you have anything you want to sell or do right now? Because you can.
I don't have anything to sell. I don't. But thank you for having me on.
Awesome,
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Later.
Peace.
Everybody, Eagle McMahon. Wow, it's fun when we can line people up like that. Sorry to put you on the spot, Evan.
You have anything to sell, Matt? Like,
I don't know. I just wanted to ask.
No, of course. That's great to leave that open to him. It's just funny. I'm laughing
agree.
at it.
I agree. He's he's rubbing his hands. I'm thinking, dude, just like pick up your shirt off. We'll just start an auction in the live chat right now. So all funds go to support like whatever the Paul Macbeth Foundation. Eagle doesn't have a foundation yet that I'm aware of. So maybe one day.
Nope.
That was good to hear
Eagle's
from
Wings,
Eagle.
right?
Absolutely. What was that?
I said there is Eagle's Wings, right? I believe that's a foundation.
That's
not
it,
affiliated
but
with Eagle.
It's a good foundation, Eagle's Wings. All right, we're getting really close. The live chat has built up currently. We're up about 550 people in the chat right now, which is great. Keep the comments coming. We are about 10 minutes or so out from Paul Macbeth joining the show. So until he does, we would actually like to talk about something that happened last week on the show, which was Nick, you weren't here.
I was going to say, I'm like, wait, I don't think I was there.
I have to preface this by saying this, Nick, how things happened, because last week I was extremely embarrassed for a few reasons. People say I played it off. Great, Matt, professional job, the whole thing. We line up advertisements here. People find our platform surprisingly worth sharing on, which is great because all of you listen and you guys respond to these ads. You go and check them out and you trust us. And so that's why we only share what we believe in. Trydiscs.com is a website that I found fantastic and totally worth checking out because it does things like help you find a disc that's more appropriate for you, or in the same line of like, if I throw Comets, I can find a list of 20 or 30 or 50 other discs that are like the Comet, maybe a different brand, something else I want to try in a different plastic, but flies similar. They find coupon codes for you, for retailers that you don't have to go find coupon codes for. One other cool feature is like I can type in a disc and it will look at 170 plus retailers around the world and it will tell me where that disc is in stock. So I do not have to visit each retailer. But last week, Nick, I'm doing this whole awesome talk about how I believe in this product and we're going to bring in the genius behind this website.
Tyler.
And Nick, I bring in the wrong person. And the person was somebody who interviewed me on a podcast previously in the week.
Yeah.
And so he's there and he smiles and he's like, I think there's a mistake. Like, I have nothing to do with that website. And I'm like, oh, no. And I'm like, it was just super embarrassing the way that happens, just to put it out there. Has anybody ever sent a text incorrectly to somebody because you're having multiple conversations? I've done it once or twice. It can be embarrassing, or it can just be, hey, sorry, wrong text. Like, I think I've done it to Simon before. I'm like, hey, what are you having for dinner? But I meant to send that to like my wife, right? And Simon's like, I don't know, spaghetti or something. And I'm like, oh, I keep talking like it's my wife because he responded normally. That's what happened with this ad placement and what we lined up for the guest, the owner of Try Disc, to come in. That's what happened. And somehow, some way, the person I was texting played into their brain that this was also for them. So that's how they showed up. It was really weird and awkward. But it worked out, and he was a good sport. Again, that was Disco Fever. You can check out the interview I did with him. But tonight, Try Disc. Nick, if you haven't checked out this website yet, Ben loves it. Evan loves it. I've used it. You've been really busy. We're going to let you hear more about it because we have lined up for real this time. For real. All right, we've got Azim Faraz in our green room. But let's bring him in right now. Let's ask him a little bit about trydisc.com. So welcome to the show, Azim. It is Azim.
It is. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being
awesome.
on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where did this idea come from for Try Discs?
Yeah, so the idea really came about because I got back into the game in 2019. I played a long time ago in high school, late 2000s, and the game was a lot different then. And when I started to pick it back up, there were so many discs, so many manufacturers, so many molds to decide between that it was a little overwhelming. And so I thought it would be helpful to have a tool where you could look for similar discs, search by flight numbers, and look for something that might suit you. I mean, ideally, I think we'd all agree that it'd be perfect if you had a big open field, you could try to throw all the discs and see what they do for you, but without having that luxury to have some sort of research tool that can help you kind of get you in the right ballpark, at least for what you might want to try.
Absolutely. So I mentioned a few things right before we brought you on. I think you heard some of them that I mentioned. Is there any tool that you're proud about or most proud about, or just did I miss any that you think should be highlighted?
No, I mean, I'm really proud about the disc finder tool because we search 171 different retailers right now, and it wasn't something that I originally was even focused on. But I've heard from so many small stores that have been like, hey, thank you so much for sending folks our way. I think it's helped a lot of local small mom and pop shops who can't necessarily show up on Google potentially, or they don't have a bunch of money to spend on Pro Tour advertising. So we can kind of share them with some of our audience.
Absolutely. And what's interesting here is we're not even telling our fans and listeners to go purchase a product. This is all free. It's not a subscription. They don't get usernames and logins. It's a tool that is totally accessible to you right now. And I know people searched it out last week. And in fact, you can find the link inside of our description here for the podcast, both YouTube live right now and well as our post podcast platforms. People in the chat right now, Azim, are saying that they actually used it last week after they heard it on the interview and they purchased themselves a new disc. It is a tool that works. Awesome. We recommend people go over there. Do you have any future goals or ideas or innovation, or are we pretty much just going to refine what's there currently?
So I have a lot of ideas and stuff in the works. I don't know how much I can share just
no, I'm kidding.
yet,
We don't get exclusive.
Right? Maybe on a future interview. But yeah, there's a lot of new tools and a lot of ideas that are in the works, and hope to be coming out with those next year.
All right. So when the Athena, which has been approved by the PDGA, Paul McBeth's new disc, which we're going to actually ask him about later. When the Athena is officially, maybe it is already rolled out, they can use this tool to find everywhere where it's in stock at retailers, correct? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Is there anything we missed, or did we cover all the bases for now?
No, I think you covered it really well. I appreciate you having me on and
absolutely. And so we're going to continue to talk about this product because we believe in it. We think people should go check it out. In fact, one of the best ways for you as a show, as listeners, to support this product is to use the link inside of our description. It directly tells them that they came from us. We get nothing for this. It's just a way to track the traffic that the Nick and Matt show is bringing. That being said, he will also look to see if we get any booster spikes, throughout the week because of these conversations we're having. But if you use the link, it'd be really helpful. But all that aside, we want you to get a good product, and that is one way to do it, through trydisc.com. So thanks for coming on, Azim. I'm glad it worked out this time, and you are the Azim, and we'll have you on again someday to talk about new innovation that you're doing there. Appreciate your time. All right, thanks, Azim. Have a good evening.
Yeah, what a cool idea. I think the disc finder idea of that is incredible. Like, if I wasn't a sponsored player, being able to not have to search, resistance discs, foundation, infinite discs, marshallstreetdiscgolf.com, like not having to do all that is insane. So what a cool idea. Definitely very, very cool and unique in the disc golf world right now.
Okay, I don't know if it's actually true. Someone in the chat said crashed the site.
It's taking a while to load. I'm trying it.
Nick and Master crashed it.
Everyone crashed the site. Nice. Try to do your best.
If it's true, I'm really proud of our show. But we'll have to spread it out next time so he can grow.
It's like lagging like a lot.
That's actually good and funny. But Azim, we crashed the show. We crashed the website. I hope that's good for you. So that's how it happened last week. It was pretty funny. I'm glad we got to talk about it. People used it again. Do it again. We're glad to have them on our show. We love that they did. Everyone's saying it crashed it.
That's so funny.
So anyways, I bring up something, Nick, like I said, like special releases, and Ben mentioned this last week. So a special release drops on somebody's disc, right? And you're a few hours too late. But there's the possibility and the opportunity to be like, I'm going to use this tool, and maybe there'll be like a retailer out there that has a couple left, right? And it's awesome. Yeah. And the coupon codes, it tells you if you buy it here, you get free shipping. If you buy it here, like it just tells you. It's really cool tool. Yeah. Innovation. Cool. Yeah, it's awesome. So
there's going to be some small retailer who has a few left. It just is what
That's what I'm saying.
Things move a little bit slower with the smaller ones, which is a good thing. More variety.
And the lightweights. People are commenting a lot about lighter weight discs that they are able to find, which is less common. So pretty cool.
Okay.
Nice.
We're going to have a lot to get through here, and I do want to do due diligence didn't fully grasp all the FPO because a lot of things were happening at once and Eagle got on. So that was 15 minutes of our show we didn't quite plan in there. So let me get back to it quick. We have over 500 in the chat. Paul will be on. They bumped it back, and I'm not putting that as a bad thing on them. They're doing a lot to make sure they make it on for this interview, probably another 10 minutes or so, and we will make sure that that happens for you. Evelina Salonen, putting woes somewhat returned. She mentioned it in her social media post. What's incredible about that is the fact that her driving is so strong, there was very few bogeys, but she was putting for so many birdies that she could have had. I will say a tied for 5th is incredible in spite of seeing missed 12 footers and all that, right? That's incredible. Evelina Salonen, Nick, if she puts her putting together and that is a non-issue for her going forward, where would you rank her, you think?
I mean, easily top 3, top 5. I mean, when Paige's drives are on and her putts on, she's number 1. When Kristen's drives are on and her putts are on, she's number 1. The thing that those two players have just so far above Evelina is their putting can be on. Like, it's very rare where we're like, holy crap, Evelina's putting's insane right now, because, as we've seen the last, over this past year, she's had the putting yips. Yeah. So, but definitely driving ability wise, I think she throws pretty overstable stuff, and I think there are times where she doesn't need to do that. Like, I think decision making for a lot of players is still kind of something that I think everyone can improve on. But when it comes to something that's just easily to dissect out of her game, it's her putting. Like, her putt from 10 feet looks no different than her putt from 30 feet in the sense of, like, what's it going to do? Is it going to fall out of her hand? Is she going to grip lock it right? Like, you kind of you don't make a bet saying like, oh yeah, this putt's going to be dead center. When other players, you can kind of see how they're going throughout the round that, oh, this is what this player's doing, Yeah.
Haley King. Evan, did you have a comment on Evelina?
I was just going to say her putting was on to start U.S. Women's, and she was leading the event. Yep. She was looking like she was I don't want to say lock. I was going that way, but no, she was looking like the favorite to win. And then the putting just started to slowly fall off, and by round 4 was kind of back to what we knew it as this year was. So it is there. It is possible. We see her lead events when it is on, or she's just driving good enough to park everything. It's tough to watch. I want to see her at her best, and she could blow everyone out of the water if she is.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what Nick said. I thought that was fantastic. When everyone's playing their best, not everybody can be number 1, but there is a handful of players when they are playing their best, they could be number 1. And I think Evelina is in that conversation for sure. Haley King is another one of those. The reason I bring her up, she made it to a tied for 9th, but she wasn't performing all that well throughout the whole course of 5 rounds. Is she a very similar conversation to Evelina here? What do you think's going on? I don't think she's happy at some level, but tied for 9th is not what she was looking for. Evan, what do you think?
I mean, this year has not been what she's looking for in general. It's just not a lot of finishes that just aren't up to her par. But 9th at the World Championship, I think that's a good finish for her in a normal year, and especially in this year. I mean, she tied Valmont Hondo. She beat Katrina Allen. Those are good players to be with. She was only a few strokes behind a few other good players. I think it was good, not great.
Okay. Yeah. Any other thoughts, Nick, on Haley?
I think same thing. She's such a great player, but still has the lackluster tournaments that you normally don't see out of, excuse me, out of the top players all the time. So, yeah, I think this was just one of those weekends where she didn't do anything spectacular. She didn't do anything awful. I mean, she still walked away with, I think, a $1,200 paycheck, getting 9th at the World Championship. So it's not the worst thing in the world. But I think when it comes to what are her goals and everything like that going into the sport, then, yeah, she's probably pretty disappointed in it.
Okay. And then let's talk about Katrina Allen. She said today in a post that this is her first time ever not making it in the top 6 at a World Championship. And I think that was, how many years has she been trying World Championships? Do we have that number, or how long has that been, Evan?
Oh, I could pull it up, but it's at least been since 2011. I think 2012 or 2011 was her first. So, I mean, so many years.
Okay.
Yeah, 2011, she played the Worlds. She got 5th place. 2010, she did not play Worlds. So, yeah, since 2011.
I do want to say this, though, just a one spark of confidence to her is this was her 150th straight Elite Series or major event in cash. That's the longest active streak of anyone. We talk about Nate Sexton's a lot, who's at 112, but 150, like that's a milestone number, first of all, but that's a lot of events. And yeah, 11th is not where Katrina Allen expects to be. It's not where we expect her to be. But at least some note to can take away is she cashed, and like that's still a good thing.
Absolutely. Okay, and then Ella Hansen. She took down.
I was just about to bring up Ella.
The World Championships distance competition. As we talked about last week, it's not necessarily a World Championship title, but it is the distance comp that happens at the World Championship, and I don't want to take anything away. She went up against the best and the furthest throwers. Paige notably being one of those, and Ella Hansen Ella Hansen able to beat that. And I think, what was it, 474, somewhere up there, somewhere up in the high 400s.
Ella threw like 497 or 495.
97, yeah. So incredible for her for distance. Number one, she's able to throw down rollers. We saw awesome rollers during competition. Tied for 12th. She's still new to the sport, and as far as like being introduced to it goes from Ultimate. But what do you think she feels about this? Tied for 12th, Nick.
I think for how she started the tournament, like we were talking about this in our group chat to where like she was killing it, and we were all pretty hyped about it because she's someone who, you know, she doesn't have this big win yet. And so I think for how she was playing at the beginning, I was actually surprised to see her at 12th place. Like I thought she finished a little bit better than that. But at the same time, I think all in all, it's still, what is this, her second or maybe third World Championships? No, it's her second World Championships. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, to be honest. She got 11th last year at Worlds, 2 different courses. I think the Mulligan's course was both shorter than Country Club and Jones Park. So, but I think a 12th place finish is definitely pretty nice.
Okay. Yeah. And Evan, any other thoughts on that?
I'm just gonna say it does hurt because she was either leading or top. Like she was up there looking phenomenal, and then she just had a round where she fell off. And coming all the way down to 12th probably hurts because she knew she could have done a lot better. She could have gotten a podium again like she did at U.S. Women's last year. She is capable of that, and just it's hard to put 5 rounds together. I'm not worried about Ella one bit. I mean, she's having a phenomenal rise to disc golf, and she's going to continue to be great. Matt, I wanted to suggest one more person to talk about that we didn't.
Yeah, go for it.
But Holland Handley in third, I think, is the most incredible story coming from this weekend besides Kristen winning her first World Championship. Holland, I think, is like the poster child for an athlete coming into disc golf and then excelling. We just talked about Ella Hansen. She had that ultimate background. And like that, you're throwing Frisbees. So like she's used to it. She was known in ultimate for throwing a mile. But Holland Handley, on the other hand, it was a volleyball player, a weightlifter, other sports, and she's turned that into being a phenomenal disc golfer. She has a good backhand. She has a good forehand. She's solid on the putting green. She's solid in the mental game. Like, she's the complete package already, and she's only getting better. Having a third place in Worlds, again, is phenomenal, and it's just it shows how good she's gotten so quickly.
Absolutely. All right, so we've made it to the end of our FPO list. And I'm not going to belabor this point any longer. Nick, we've made it to this point where we would normally be bringing in Paul Macbeth, but it's not actually going to work out. Oh, yeah, it's
just in general.
In general, it's not working out tonight. We had everything set up to do this. This is out of everybody's hands. Everybody. So we watched the concurrent viewers drop drastically. No, it's out of everybody's hands. And so there's nobody to blame here. It is an IT issue out of the Macbeth residents that will not allow them to join, both by either phone or video at this point. They do have tech assistance set up for some time here in the near future. And so we will see what we can do to line that up for a future show.
We do have an extra special guest instead of Paul. Paul Macbeth's best friend, Nick Carl.
Everyone's going to drop out right now.
We'll just ask Nick the questions, and he can say how he thinks Paul would answer. So, okay. No, but in all seriousness, I don't know what else to say. I do want to take a moment because I do not want to breeze over the fact that just was announced here. There was no part of us that thought this would happen. We apologize to our live listeners who have been sitting around in hopes for that. We are going to work to get something scheduled here. And I'm trying to multitask. Like while the show is happening, like I'm corresponding back and forth. There's a lot that has been going into tonight to make it happen, and it's just not happening. Yeah, someone in the chat says we crashed Paul's internet too. Everybody, slow down on the internet. Yeah. Slow down.
I used to live at that house, and that internet is really like very strugglesome at a lot of times. So what we're going to try to do here is possibly line up another guest, and is not to say they are second to anybody else, but we're going to see what we can do here. In fact, I'm just going to throw it out there, possibly an Aaron Gossage interview, a guy who pushed the playoff. Would it be possible? Ben, do you happen to have his phone number or just Instagram or what?
He follows me on Instagram. Shout out Aaron. Thanks, Aaron. So I'm just going to reach out to him there.
All right. This is part of the live shows, or me messing up like I did last week, as well as things like this happening. I will say let's get Eagle back on.
Yeah.
But we have a lot to talk about. So you can work to see if you want to line something up. You have the links to send if we get something.
Hit up everyone. I know.
Hit up everyone. He knows. So let's do this. We had a lot of great questions to ask. In fact, let's just save them until Paul or somebody else is able to come on here. So let's get into some of the topics surrounding Worlds specifically. Nick, how much is it an advantage or a disadvantage to have previous Worlds playoff experience? Is that an advantage or a disadvantage? And the way it went down for Paul last year, I don't know. You could argue it either way. So what do you think coming into this? This is one of the questions we're going to ask him. He hears it and he's like, I just pushed another playoff for the World Championships. Is that an advantage or a disadvantage, Nick?
I think in a sense, it's obviously an advantage having prior knowledge and like prior experience in a playoff at this large caliber of an event, the World Championships. I mean, Paul's gone through it, 3 times now? He's 2 out of 3 when it comes to winning World Championships and playoffs. One of them was a 7-hole playoff where he clutched up every single 25 to 35 footer that round, or that playoff event. 2021, his shot hit the island and then just kind of skipped OB while James Conrad parked it. So, I mean, it's funny that it was another island hole. I hate the idea of the coin flip because that's what they did to determine who goes first. I think it was Paul gets heads, Aaron gets tails. So whatever the coin lands on, that's who throws first. It landed on Aaron. I think that was tougher for Aaron to go first in that situation, only in the sense of like, Aaron went first. Aaron throws it OB. Now Paul, all he has to do is throw the buzz hard enough to try to hit that back wall. Don't throw it too high. Don't throw it too low. Just throw a stock 330-foot, 340-foot buzz shot, which is something that obviously Paul McBeth can do. And it also, I think, alleviates a lot of pressure and not having, like, seeing Aaron go OB. It alleviates a lot of pressure by not having to absolutely park the hole or put it within 20 feet. I think the idea of that hole is really stupid. I'm just going to say that, where I think the basket should be in the middle of the island. There shouldn't be a wall. I think that's the dumbest looking thing in the world. It reminds me of the hole at Worlds last year where you could throw against the fence. Like, it rewards you to throw against a backstop, which I think is really stupid. So put the basket in the middle of the island, make about a 40-foot circle surrounding the whole thing, and I think you have a much better hole. I hated the fact that, and this is also probably because I threw OB twice on that hole, but I thought it was kind of annoying that I would literally land on land and I'd be, 3 inches, 4 inches from being in bounds, because inevitably if you hit the land and kind of scoot down, you're probably not going to stay on it. And so each one of my shots was dry, but it was OB, which I thought was really stupid, because I could have, and maybe I should have done this, is just taken a fairway driver and blasted it at the wall, hit the wall, and then just sat there at 30 feet. So I think the idea of it was kind of bad. But ultimately, going back to the original question, having that playoff experience, I think is, incredible.
Okay. It crossed my mind that it could be both ways, and I'm glad you kind of shared it that way. And what's really cool here, and I'm going to do this before all of our audience drops off, because they don't love listening to just you and me, Nick. No, I'm kidding. We made the show, but we were actually able to line up Aaron Gossage. He's literally in our virtual green room right now. That quick. Intern Ben deserves a raise.
Let's go.
But right before we bring him in, I just want to, because we're going to ask him what he thinks about that. And Evan, do you have any thoughts on that? What would be your feelings? Are you like, hey, I want experience, or like, if it went down the way it did last year with Paul, like I don't want that experience?
I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it. I mean, you look at Worlds last year, it just was unfortunate, kind of skipped by Paul, but James was clutch. Like he put it exactly where he needed to force Paul to throw a good shot as well, and obviously you got that skip. But I think James has that experience of winning, been there, not at Worlds, but has been there. But I look at USDGC last year with Kyle Klein, who had won an elite series event before that major, but then just didn't. I'm going to say clutch up on that playoff hole. It wasn't a terrible shot, but didn't clutch up. It was kind of similar to Aaron's, where it wasn't a bad shot. It just wasn't executed to enough to win the playoff, and Paul was able to capitalize it. I mean, a lot of things felt similar to USDGC play, or the lead up to the playoff with Macbeth. Kind of the last 2-3 holes felt similar, and it kind of felt like Paul had already done it at USDGC. It kind of felt that way. So you could say the experience was there, but then also Paul hasn't had the best track record in playoffs. Going into this event, he was 3-8 in the Elite Series and Majors in a playoff. We saw him lose Jonesboro earlier this year with obviously T-pad gate with the turf pad, but you can go either way. I mean, playoffs are toss-ups, and so you want to be there to know it. I'm leaving this open-ended. I'm sorry, but there's some opinions on both sides.
I will say this. I made a social post that said, imagine having previous experience going into the playoffs of the PDGA World Championships, and I left it at that. Because it's public and it wasn't a private text message, Hannah commented and said, thank you for noticing this. Paul had to go into what was more or less, she said, the trauma of last year, the way it went down, the epicness of like a throw going in. And she said he was able to go into that playoff and face it down again and take it. And I thought that was really epic to hear her say that. That's from her perspective on what that was. Aaron, can you hear us? I'm just curious of that because your camera is not on. Okay, he's not responding right now. Can you?
I'm texting right now.
Keep texting him. He was there, and I saw him there, but he was trying to rotate the orientation of his camera, and I think we messed him up with that. But so that's interesting. I want to hear his side, if he would rather have experience going into that or not. I have a feeling I know what he'll say, but let's go into this.
Well, I just want to say that Eagle agreed with me that the land should be safe and the basket should be centered. So,
if we're going back to I get an idea.
Yeah, so we've talked about this, Evan, today during our round. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm okay if the OB line stays the same throughout the entirety of the year, as in when it's drier, you'll see more land. I just want it to be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, which I think is a sentiment that I think can go for a number of holes at Emporia. But that hole being so amazing, if it just had like a slight rock wall, I mean, not as crazy as you get on some other holes, not as like Jones Supreme hole 1, but just a little bit to really show where that island is, then I don't think it's bad if land is OB short if the water is drier. I wouldn't want a scenario where it's crazy. I mean, if it's crazy flooding, it's obviously going to only go so high. But if it's a crazy drought, even more so than maybe Emporia is right now or late in the year, where let's say it goes out 50 feet more, and then the island's pointless. And like, yeah, maybe that's an exaggeration and kind of too far thinking out, but like, where does it stop is a tough question to ask. And if they just kind of build something that's not painted.
So this is how I'm going to look at it. If you don't want people walking on the bankment, then it should all be OB. None of it should be in bounds. Absolutely none of it. I think it's ridiculous that some of it is in bounds, but none of it is, but not all of it is in bounds. Now, my solution to that is take away the stupid wall, because I think it looks awful, and I think it's really stupid how you can play the hole. This is my opinion, and people get butthurt about me having an opinion saying something looks like shit. But like, this is one of those things. Like, I think it looks awful. That is my opinion of it. I think a better idea for that hole, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, I know a lot of the pros did when I would talk to them about it, is center the basket on the island, and that way anything that's on the grass that's actually on the island is in bounds. And that could be 35, 40 feet. You could make it 25 feet, whatever it actually is. But then you have a non-fluky hole. I think it looks incredible on drone coverage. to where if someone doesn't make it above the embankment, you know for sure it's out of bounds. It's not one of those things where like, oh, I barely skipped off. I'm on the left-hand side. My disc is completely, by 3 feet, my disc is completely surrounded by land, but I'm OB. And then let me run this drop zone putt that if I hit the front of the basket, guess what? I'm probably going to go OB again.
All right.
It's just like, I think it's a dumb idea.
Let's ask Aaron Gossage a few questions. We've got him reline. Yeah, he's here. Yeah. And welcome to the show, Aaron. It wasn't that long ago. I feel like we had you on, but maybe it was. Maybe it was last year. But welcome back to the Nick and Matt Show. How are you doing? Oh, we didn't unmute him.
There. Oh, that's my bad.
That's intern Ben's bad.
I was too busy trying to post on Instagram that he's on the show.
Good job lining him up, Ben. Hey, Aaron, thank you for being so ready at the last minute. We are glad to have you on. If we could line up everybody on one show at one night, we would do it. But but we got you. We're really excited about that. So first of all, incredible performance and show. It's gonna go down in an interesting way for you as one of the better World Championship finishes ever. Just like in similar ways, and I'll let you react to this, to what Paul felt like he dealt with in a way last year, and we had him on to talk to him about it. Do you feel like, how do you feel about the way it went down? Like the whole thing, let's just start at the final round. How do you feel like it went down all the way up to the playoff for you?
Yeah, so I don't think it's quite like what happened to Paul last year. I think I put myself in a really good position to kind of hold on to a lead and potentially have a chance to win it. But just kind of under those circumstances with the pressure on me, I definitely just was feeling a little tight, missed a few putts, and Paul definitely battled back. And I was really happy with myself right at the end. I was able to really clutch up and throw some good shots right towards the end to force the playoff. But the biggest difference between like this year and last year is it was like Paul didn't make any mistakes last year, and it was just kind of like stolen from him, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Versus this year, I didn't feel like Paul stole it from me. I mean, he made some incredible shots there on 17, but overall, I could have won it at any point. So it wasn't quite like that. Just like
okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate that correction from your perspective for sure. And I would say, as you mentioned, you feel like you made some mistakes. I'm not going to have you rehash and say which ones you think were the biggest mistakes, but hole 18, you were able to, I'll say, clutch up from my perspective, and you threw a shot that I feel like I saw you try to throw in similar ways previous rounds at Emporia Country Club, but you executed it to put yourself really close. Was it bullseye there on your approach for your final hole 18?
Yeah, it was pretty close. It was about 18, 20 feet, something like that. But I definitely practiced that shot a lot in practice. That was kind of how I drew the hole up for the whole tournament, and I was finally able to execute it that last round.
Okay, yeah, and I was just going to say, is 18 to 20 feet, was that close enough? What were you feeling walking up to that putt?
So just like I told all my friends, I'm not known for making 20-foot putts. I have choked many a putts from that distance. So walking up to that, I was like, oh God, this is the nerviest 20-footer of my life. And I just tried to relax, not think about it too much, and just put it in the basket.
Okay.
And you did.
Yeah, and you did. And you did. And I was in the Atlantic Ocean with my iPad watching it all unfold live because that's where I was with my family. And I'm just like, this is going to be incredible. Either way, you forced Paul in that scenario to have to get the birdie to win. And he wasn't able to do that. And you forced a playoff. Not moving past that point specifically, did you have a moment of feeling proud of yourself then, or were you still in what we'll call battle mode? Like you didn't even consider that a success?
Yeah, I'm not even sure I would call it like battle mode. I was just in like shock. The whole thing was just kind of a blur. And I don't know. It's hard to really describe what I was thinking. I was like, oh, I guess I still have a chance. I don't know. It was one of those that was like, I was ready for the whole thing to be over.
Wow.
My body couldn't take it anymore.
Wow. Explain that, because I heard you in one of your post-round interviews mention the nerves. Is this the biggest disc golf moment you've ever been a part of?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. And what were the nerves like? You mentioned your body almost couldn't take it. Just kind of explain that just a little bit.
Yeah, just like probably for the whole day, like the night before, I just had this like knot in my chest trying to deal with this, trying not to think about it too much. Just thought of like, hey, I could be a world champion. I just got to play some decent golf. And honestly, what really helped sober me up was losing the lead in the middle of the round. As soon as Paul was in the lead, I was like, well, I'm no longer trying to hold on to anything. I'm fighting back. You know, I don't have any choice. I have to go for birdies here. I have to execute these shots. So it was really nice to have that moment of really, I don't know, clearing my mind a little bit and actually playing some good golf.
Yeah, I can't imagine the way that so we go to a playoff, and it used to be that you would have to check your scores. There's not much of that going on anymore with the digital scoring. Is that correct?
Yeah, I always check my scores at the end of rounds, especially the first 4 rounds. I was like, I'm in the lead. No reason for there to be any mistakes here. But that last round, I had no idea what I shot. All I knew was I was tied with Paul Macbeth, and I hoped that somebody else got the scores right. I never signed off on anything. So that's the first time that's ever happened to me.
Interesting. And so there's a little bit of conversation surrounding that, but so you move over to hole 16, which is where it all starts for the playoff. And did you watch, what were you thinking? What were you prepping? How were you thinking about this moment now? Because you're probably watching the gallery and it seems significant, but line hole 16, what is that moment like when there's so many people watching you throw a shot in a high pressure situation like that?
Yeah, all day I had just been trying to zone the gallery out, and definitely right there on hole 16 in the playoff, I just took a moment to breathe it in, look all around me, see everything that was happening, and just kind of like live in the moment for that second before throwing my shot. So it was a really cool experience to really just like understand what I had accomplished and where I was and everything going on around me. So,
what besides the fact that everybody makes mistakes throwing a disc, I felt like you had thrown so solidly on hole 16 island all week that I said, this is a lockup. I almost feel advantage to Gossage here in my own mindset. We asked right before you came on, and you might have heard this, do you wish, and this is only because Paul has previous playoff experience at the World Championships, do you wish that you like had previous experience? Do you think you would have thrown your shot to a not out of bounds place if you had experience? Were your nerves that high, I guess, is my question.
So it's a little bit different in my thought process. So earlier in the tournament, I had gotten on the island safe all 3 rounds,
right?
But I had never birdied the hole. I laid up, I think, all 3 rounds and got a par. And I knew that par was not going to do it today, especially in that playoff. So what I was telling myself is, you're a phenomenal driver. You're great off the tee. And what you need to do right now is you need to put this tee shots 20 feet because your putt is just a little bit not so great under these pressure situations. And I'd rather put all that pressure on my driving. So I was lining up the same shot, and I told myself, just throw it about 15 feet shorter than you did the last time. And because of that, I didn't throw it quite as flat as I needed to. I think I had the right speed. It was pin high. I just needed to have a little less hyzer angle on it.
Yeah, I mean, out of the hand, I was like, ooh, that looks higher than... I definitely noticed the change in your throw, and it's interesting to hear you say that was on purpose, more or less, like you're trying to throw a different shot. You're trying to be closer. I noticed it came out a little high, and I thought, oh boy, so I just wasn't sure. When it landed where it did, you knew immediately that it was out of bounds?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And
I knew it was immediately out of bounds, out of my hand. As soon as I threw the shot, I was like, no, that doesn't have a chance.
Mm-hmm. And so I hate to have you rehash it, but I mean, you realized it wasn't in. Did you feel like, I mean, everything's out of your control, but what were you feeling at that moment?
Well, I had a moment of, oh, maybe it's not over. I could still make the putt from the drop zone. But honestly, I was just kind of like, it's kind of a delayed reaction. You know what I mean? I knew deep down that it was over as soon as that happened. And I was just trying to like hold on for those like scraps. Mm-hmm. And I went to the drop zone, gave it the best run I could, got it chain high. But even if I had made the putt, I didn't for a second think I had a chance of winning it after missing the island.
So, I mean, that moment obviously had to be somewhat defeating, but I think in your post-round interview, you talked about whether it was a privilege or it was a great, accomplishment you felt that you had made it to this point. I would agree with that strongly. How are you thinking after 2 days have gone by about them? Like, how do you look back at it? Are you still like taking it in? Like, what is your perspective now?
So I definitely had a couple days of just being like emotional, looking back at everything, trying to like wrap my brain around it. Right now, I've come to terms with the fact that I just played awesome for an entire week, and even that last round, there were a lot of things to be proud of. So overall, very happy with the tournament. And like I said, Paul had to beat me. He threw 2 amazing shots on 17 to get that birdie, and without that, I win the World Championship. So you can tell he's a clutch guy, and I actually made him, throw some good shots there.
Absolutely. So you're not Paul Macbeth, but you knew he was out of position. And how are you, at that moment? I know you can't count yourself as the winner, but in that moment, you're thinking yourself really high percentage. Like, what are you thinking when you see where his shot lands? You're like, this is really good, right?
Well, yeah, I was up by 1, or no, we were tied. Sorry,
right. Yep.
Going into 17, and he threw that shot, and immediately, as soon as it hit the tree, I thought to myself, you can't birdie from there. So I didn't think I was going to win, but I did think, hey, this is an opportunity, and I stepped up and I threw an awesome drive, and I was like, okay, I'm put myself in position. If I can execute this upshot, I get a stroke right here, and I can have a buffer going into 18. And he threw 2 miraculous shots, and I didn't think it was possible to birdie from there. I didn't think he could birdie after he threw the amazing upshot. But put an amazing upshot and amazing putt together, and you get a birdie. So pretty crazy.
Again, I'll only do this one more time. I promise. Have you talk about your competitors' throws? But I remember, I think it was round 2, possibly was it at Jones, where you saw him finish out his round with a massive, was it like an 80-foot putt or something crazy? It was something like that. And I just remember they put a camera on you, Aaron, and you're just shaking your head going, wow. So, I mean, you got to see it a few times, but to your point, you made him have to do all of that up until the very last hole even. And that is an incredible accomplishment. Paul is going to go down as a very decorated figure in our sport, and you are going to be a part of that history for 2022. No one can take that away from you. I'm sure you wished it went a different way, but here's my question. This is your second season fully touring. Is that correct? Or was it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
And how do you feel like you rate this season now, including even the World Championships? Like, I have a perspective, but I want yours.
Yeah, so it's always interesting going into a season. Sometimes you're like, I don't know, I have this thought every now and then where I'll play an amazing tournament, and I'll be like, I wonder if that's the best tournament I ever play, and then coming into this season, I'm like, I've got a lot to live up to from last season, played some good rounds, and already halfway through the season, I was like, I've already done everything. I've got a higher rating, better tournament finishes, playing more consistent. And here towards the end, I struggled a couple events, but I knew that as soon as I got back on one of these courses that I really handled well, I put some work in, I was going to do well. But I didn't think it was going to be this good. And yeah, this is by far the best, disc golf experience I've ever had.
Okay. Another thought. And Nick, I'm sure you have a few. I've been talking. I know you're kind of feeling under the weather. I'm actually trying to help out a little bit.
You're good.
But did you hear, and I think it was Paul, and I'm not saying you were trying to consume all the media of Paul after the tournament, but I heard something about Paul watching your rounds prior to the last round so he could see what you were doing. How were you doing what you were doing? Had you heard anything about that yet?
So I have heard about it now.
Okay.
I watched that interview for sure, and I actually noticed it during the round. There were 4 or 5 times where he threw a shot where I was like, finally, he threw the right shot on this hole.
Finally.
And moreover than anything, I think that it was one of the reasons he won. I think that I had a really good game plan going in, and I'm surprised so many other players didn't have this game plan. I think it was mainly just me and Tristan. Just played hyzers on every hole, played it safe, and shot really well. And I think it took Paul 5 rounds to really figure out that this is the way to play this tournament. And, because of that, and because he can execute the putts under pressure, I didn't play much worse that last round than I did other than the putts. So he played my game and just made the putts, and that's what got him the win.
Interesting. I love your perspective on that. I'm glad I asked that. Nick, you think of anything that you'd like to know?
Yeah, I think more so is just figuring out, your putting wasn't necessarily bad throughout the whole tournament. You were hitting great putts. You didn't miss too many putts where we were like, oh man, he really should have made that. But because I was watching the final round live and I was going around, and there were a couple putts like hole 3 down the hill where Paul was looking at about a 35-footer. He cans it pin high. You're looking at about a 28-footer, and you just don't get a little bit low. And then a couple putts, I think on hole 7 after that, where it just raised above the basket. Like, was that generally just from the nerves that you were feeling, or does it kind of the confidence of I'm not the greatest putter kind of set in on that? What was your take with it?
Yeah, a couple things going on there. Number one, it was quite a bit more windy that last round than any of the other rounds. I had a lot of headwind putts, and you get the nose down just a little bit in the headwind, it's going to drop. You get the nose up a little bit, it's going to lift. So that's why it was kind of, a little high, a little low. Still dialed in on the, the pole. But like you said, a lot of nerves as well. Under nerves, I really struggle to slow down my swing itself. So it gets a little bit jerky, and it's hard to find the correct release point. And I've always struggled with this. But like you said, up until this point, I had been able to handle my nerves and really, put the disc in the basket. My putting was super solid for 4 rounds. And then, right there at the end, I knew the last day was going to be tough, and I just needed better drives, better upshots to take a little pressure off my putt.
Do you think a lot of the pressure came from the fact that it's Paul McBeth that's trailing you and wanting to kind of like go for that 6th world title? Or is it, if it was anyone else, do you think you would have felt as much pressure in that situation? I know that's kind of like a weird question to ask, but like, do you think it being Paul, where we've seen this happen a few times, do you think that played any sort of mind game in it?
It's hard for me to say. I have no experience in this matter.
Right.
It's possible that there is more pressure with Paul, but I think if it was any, other solid player too, like Ricky, Eagle, even Matty O put a lot of pressure on me too. I think moreover, the pressure was what was at stake, and the fact that I was up by 3 strokes, and it was just like, can I hold on to that? I mean, there were a lot of people that were just saying things like, Aaron should be able to hold on to this. We'll see if he can do it. So it's tough just kind of putting that pressure on yourself as well.
So now that you've had this incredible finish at a major, what are kind of the goals the rest of the season? I mean, I know one of the big things, it's definitely a nice little paycheck that you took home. I know earlier in the year you were talking about getting a newer touring vehicle, I think a bigger one. So I think this is kind of a step in the right direction. But play-wise, what are your goals kind of finishing out the year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I put in a ton of work this weekend, and honestly, it just wasn't quite enough. So my goal is to just keep grinding on the putting green. I think that if I can get my putts to a nice solid place where I'm very confident in a lot of situations, I could have some good finishes here at the end of the season. GMC MVP are never quite my style of golf as far as drives go. So I'm hoping to just play some solid, consistent golf there, stick with that game plan. But USDGC is going to be the next one that I really want to attack.
Nice.
It's a course that should suit my game, and I just need to put some practice in, and I think I could have a good tournament there.
Eagle jumped on the podcast earlier, and we were just talking about kind of his game plan throughout the week, his touring life that he has nowadays. But one of the questions, and answer it however you want, what did you think about the courses in general this year for Worlds? I mean, you played Worlds last year. What did you think about the courses this year for Worlds?
I thought that these were a lot less fluky. I thought there were a lot of gimmicky, strange things over at those other 2 courses in Utah. I thought there were a lot of really nice things about them too that you don't get here at the country club. I think this kind of golf really suits my game, so I'm going to be a little biased, but I love playing this kind of golf. Really just, there seems to be very little luck involved. I felt like for the entire weekend, I never really had a lucky break, and I never really had an unlucky break. And I would take that at every tournament, for the rest of my life. Yeah. So compared to some of the woods golf I've played, of course, I'm a little bit biased, but I definitely enjoy this style of golf a little more.
Nice. Okay.
Here's one, and you came into this when we were talking about this one, and I brought up the island hole. That is where, unfortunately, you threw out of bounds. There's a debate going on out there. One, just generally about island holes in playoffs. I mean, Paul had to do it last year. He had to do it again this year. This is your first time to do it. We see it at other courses as well. Do you feel like, just from your perspective, and I'm not asking you to, it's not a ho-hum Aaron Gossage, I threw, OB and I don't like it, but just generally put, do you want to see a playoff that starts on an island hole like that? Or would you as a fan even like to see something different? Or do you not care?
So me as a player, of course, I would rather play a par 4. I think par 4 is a little bit more test of skill, and versus the island holes are a little test of precision. And the precision's tough for me in a playoff. That being said, I think playoffs are mostly about the fans. What do the fans want to see there at the end? And the fans want to see us play hole 16. So I don't think there's any problem with us playing the island hole. I was wondering what we were going to play for the playoffs, but when they said 16, 17, 18, I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. And then the follow-up question to that would be the way that it was marked this year. Did you have any thoughts or concern? Not that it would have changed that playoff throw for you to be inbounds, but did you have any thoughts on like, hey, why is this marked the way it is? Would you like it a different way? Do you like the wall on there, or would you like to see it removed? Nick gave his opinions earlier, but we want to hear yours.
Yeah, I heard Nick's opinions. I'm not sure on the wall, to be honest with you. I haven't made an opinion on that. As far as the island goes, the two things I have to say are, one, it's the same island as it was for DDO. So I 100% see why they did that. And it's a massive island if you make it the whole thing and just the water out of bounds. And I don't think that it needs to be that big. I think it is good that it's a little bit smaller, makes it a little more challenging. I will say, however, for some reason, the island feels smaller than at DDO, even though it's the exact same size. And I think it's just because you're looking at it and you get to see that certain bits of the land are out of bounds. I don't know. It's just a little bit in your head as far as how big the island is. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts on it. And then
follow up to just generally your feelings on, and we're just kind of throwing out conversations we're going to have here, but I figured you were there. How many lead cards have you found yourself on? That's a sincere question. Like in an elite tier, any or a few?
2. I've been on 2 lead cards at Elite Series.
And was that final round or no?
One of them was second round. One of them was final round. Yep.
Okay. And the reason I'm going down that road is not to make you point out how many lead cards you've been on, but gallery wise, as a fan, I get to watch the lead card every round, right? Gallery wise, did this seem like a large gallery to you, or were you like, it's the World Championships, it could have been better? What was your perspective as a player?
Well, it was interesting. One of the reasons I think I played so well all week is we didn't have any, like almost no gallery whatsoever until the final round. And it was a massive gallery the final round. I don't know how it stacks up to some of the other events. It was the biggest gallery I've ever seen. I don't usually stick around and watch, the cards finish, but it was such a change from the first 3-4 rounds that I was blown away by how many people were out there.
Okay. Yeah, and
I can attest to that for being someone that was actually in the crowd watching it. The first couple of days were funny because I didn't watch until the 4th round because I was at Emporia Country Club, and then the final round because I was at Emporia Country Club. I think it's kind of weird in a good way, but weird in a bad way that our tournament ends. Give me 1 second. Our tournament ends on a Saturday.
Yes.
Because you would think that Saturday and Sunday would be your 2 massive days of selling spectator tickets. But the tournament starts on Tuesday, ends on Saturday, and Sunday is usually known as a travel day, which I think is good. But at the same time, like Aaron was just saying, Friday, me, Julian, Billy Angle, and Hannah, we could walk around and literally find whatever spot we wanted to go to. And we would usually stay a little bit further down the fairway. But if I want to watch them putt, I just walk right up to the rope and I watch them putt. If I wanted to go watch a drive, I walk right up. The final day, there were some areas where it was like 5 people deep to where you literally could not see anything, which I thought was pretty cool. It was cool to see the amount of spectators that did show up that final day. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so that was kind of my question, and I was going to go down this route, and we don't need to keep Aaron on for this conversation, but it ending on a Saturday is different. And I know the PDGA, I saw a post out there, I think it was Robert Leonard, saying that they're considering making a permanent change to where it used to be it would end on Saturdays for travel purposes, but like it's not needed as much anymore, as my understanding. But anyways, all that being said, Aaron, it was an impressive show. You're feeling like your season is maybe a major success at this point. Maybe you feel like you want to do more, and I'm expecting that. Do you have any questions about touring next year? Or are you all in?
Oh, I'm definitely all in.
Okay.
This was definitely a bit of a decider of, I've got to go full in. Got to light a fire underneath me. I can compete at the top. Just got to put the practice in. Got to get the experience at the top level.
Absolutely.
On the last show, Aaron, I did predict you're going to get on the elite team and your own disc. So I think I'm a genius, and Goose Zone's coming soon. Am I right?
He laughs.
Yeah, I'm not sure what disc it's going to be, but I think
okay.
there's a good chance I'll be on the elite team.
Let's go.
Let's
Got him. Called it.
He's gotta fight Adam Hammis if he wants that zone. That's just how it's gotta go down, I guess.
No, we need Aaron on the zone.
Actually, really
Both
quick,
of them.
before we let you go or before you leave, you do have relation to Goose Gossage, correct?
The whole
Okay,
chat's calling you Goose. That's why.
The whole chat is literally wondering, and like we've said this a bunch, but Goose Gossage, the name actually came up when we were at a Chicago White Sox game, and I was like, she was like, "Oh, Aaron Gossage," and or Kat said that, and I was like, "Yeah, Kat, they're related." And she was like, "No, get out of here." And I was like, "No, I'm pretty sure they are." But
Pretty
anyways,
sure.
the
They can
commentators,
go back and listen to this episode. We interviewed Aaron 2 years ago, I think, or maybe it was last year.
Yeah,
Right.
after his OTV.
Go find his
Yeah.
full interview where we asked him about this stuff. Yeah.
Anywho, long story short, this is my question. People have started calling you Goose. Is that a nickname that you care to have, or is that something that like you're against? Tell me how it is.
Lay it out.
It's a good question. I haven't given it a ton of thought. Overall, I've been called Goose my whole life by just friends, people I meet. Half of them know who Goose Gossage is, half of them don't. They just call me that. So I've just gotten used to that nickname for sure. I haven't really given it much thought of whether, it's a good thing or a bad thing, just because I don't want to take away from what Richard did and everything. But also it just seems to be sticking. So
it's sticking.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
It was when the commentators were saying, "Here goes Goose on this shot." And I'm like, "Whoa, when did he start?" Because I've only known you as Aaron, and like we've only talked to each other as like Aaron and Nick and whatever. And so it was just kind of funny when they're like, "Oh, here's Goose with the second shot." I'm like, when the hell did we start calling him Goose? Like, did I miss something?
Here's a
so
little
I was just
insight
curious.
to me. I was at Evan's house. We were watching the thing, and during like the last 2 holes, I was like nervous for you. And then when you hit that on 18, that huge, you landed it for the bird. We were like, the goose is loose. We were like freaking out. And then so it sticks. I'm telling you.
Well,
and I'm back. See you later.
Sometimes we don't get to choose our nicknames, but sometimes people, like I remember interviewing James after last year's win, and we were talking about like what the name of the shot would be, and he's like, "Listen, I don't have any say in what happens there. People get to decide." But we will let Aaron give his opinion on that. But I think, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you're like, dude, you guys missed a home run? You could ask me this question. I would have told you all the inside scoops. Is there anything we missed, Aaron?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
Oh, I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chat keeps saying what you threw on 16 was a putter line zone. Is that what you threw there?
It's a soft zone. That's what I've been throwing all day. It just, when it hits the ground, it gets almost no skip. So that's kind of why I was throwing it so high, is I knew that I had to get it like on the island. But I was hoping that if I land it 20 feet behind the basket, it'll stay at 20 feet behind the basket.
Thanks for the insight.
All right. Well, with that being said, we appreciate very much the fact that you were ready to go. In fact, you're the champion of tech, and I'll tell you what the Macbeths aren't. It was supposed to be that way, and I'm glad we got you on because, in fact, and I will say this in full honesty, the show has increased by hundreds when you came on the show. And people, when they thought Macbeth was on here, it was 200 less. So when you got on, the show exploded. So we appreciate that very much. And we expect nothing but, good disc golf throws out of you from here on out because we know how good you are now. No pressure. And now you have playoff experience at the World Championships. And that's something that you cannot buy. And very few people have that. So congratulations again. I know it's interesting to say that to a second place finish, but man, what a show, and it will go down in history. So thank you very much for your time, Aaron.
Chat's asking, how can we support you? Is
there a better way to support you than we're already doing?
Good question. The 2 things I got going right now is Upper Park. Use my discount code Aaron10 to purchase a bag from Upper Park. That will help me out. As well as I've been talking with Bob, and I should have something coming out pretty soon for some kind of thing to commemorate what I accomplished this past week. So,
hell yeah.
Let's go crash Upper Park's website and Discraft. Everybody go.
There you go.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Aaron.
On here.
What was that?
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for having it. Thanks for coming. We'll talk to you again another time. Peace out.
Thanks, guys.
All right. And just like that, intern Ben earns his keep. Lines up Aaron Gossage, everybody.
Well,
There you go.
Aaron-
I wanted to say really quick, someone had asked, let's see if I can find it. What did Paul say to Aaron on the playoff? Now, I'm not sure exactly what moment they're talking about, but after everything happened, a bunch of us went out to dinner, and then we went back to an Airbnb, kind of watched the last few holes. But we were talking about that, what I think is that exact moment where Paul says something to Aaron, and it might have been after Aaron missed the drop zone putt, or maybe after Paul had tapped out for the win. But he had said, he was like, I think he said, like, this was a blast, you'll be here again. And just in the sense of, like, you did incredible, it was an absolute blast battling with you, like, you'll be here again. I thought it was kind of cool because there was a bunch of us walking around following the round, and it was so cool because it was 2 Discraft guys. Now, obviously, I have a friendship that, you know, is on a major level with Paul. I do have a friendship with Aaron. We see each other. He actually came out to the block party. We were all hanging out a bunch. Wicked nice kid. I do like him as a person, but kind of rooting for Paul. And last year, the one shot that I watched that final round was, what's it called? The final shot that I watched was the holy shot, and that's when Paul had lost. And so this year, when Aaron had made like the massive upshot on 18, when it went to the hole 16 as a playoff and Paul actually put it on the island, it was a pretty incredible moment. But 2 other people that were there who it was kind of like mixed feelings, I think, was Mike Wagner and Bob Giulio, who are 2 of the head guys over at Discraft, and they're literally watching 2 of their Discraft players like battle it out, and they're freaking out because one's hitting a massive putt, one's hitting a massive drive, and it was just, I don't know, it was pretty cool to watch. And it was awesome that Discraft was there supporting. You know, they both went right up to Aaron and just gave him a massive hug and said, congratulations, this was an incredible event by you. So that was pretty sweet.
Absolutely. So I'm a little bit taken back, and will apologize one more time. We never want to advertise a show that doesn't happen. There's no reason we're doing that intentionally. This was purely, again, just so everyone's on the same page, live here has jumped in, purely due to technical issues that are out of our control. Plain and simple. We will get this lined up for another time. We're trying to coordinate that now with Macbeth's. But all that being said, we got an excellent interview with Aaron, and the people wanted to hear it. So we're very grateful for that. Now,
funny enough, last year we didn't have James Conrad on the day after Worlds. We had Paul Macbeth, the runner-up.
It's our thing.
And then this one we had Paul lined up. Things didn't work out, obviously.
It's our thing.
So then, yeah, exactly.
So here's how it goes. We had Eagle on. We didn't expect that. So we did a good job tonight lining up guests on accident, which is fantastic. On purpose,
awesome,
not so
accidental show.
But let me ask this question. We have a lot to talk about, and we'll just see how it flows. And if we're like, yeah, no, we're done, we'll be done. But I just want to ask, simply put, I don't need a lot of deep insight into this. If Aaron hit the drop zone putt to save, what would it have been? A 3?
For par, yeah.
A 3.
Would Paul have gone for the birdie on the island hole, or would he said, dude, it's not worth missing here and losing?
No, he was about in the same spot as as he was during the round. So he would have ran the putt. It was the same thing on hole 18. Like, we were asking him, how far away would you have had to be on hole 18 to where you laid it up? And he was like, I don't know. Because I was thinking maybe another 10 feet, he lays up that putt on 18. But there wasn't like a ton of wind. There was a little bit of a headwind, I think it was. I could be mistaken, or tailwind. But
in the fact, I didn't ask Aaron about this. Aaron went for that putt during the round, like 3 holes prior. He hit the front rim, and I thought that was real. Yeah, I thought that was really aggressive, and I was like, good for him. Like, wow.
Well, I think he kind of had to go for the putt at that time because he had just gained 2 strokes on 15, and then going into 16, had he hit that putt, he would have stayed 1 stroke up. So then, but I think advantage to Aaron on hole 18. Well, so
hold on, I don't think he was 2 strokes up going into 16 because they were tied on 17.
No, he was 1 stroke.
Right, yeah.
I'm saying he would have stayed at 1 stroke up going into 17 had he hit that putt.
Yeah, I think he had
Paul
to.
hits it. And then all of a sudden now on 17, Paul makes 2 incredible shots, goes up by 1.
I know.
But like I said, I think advantage Gossage on 18 just because of that forehand.
Absolutely. All right. So then I'm going to toss this one over to Evan. He's still here, everybody, an hour later.
Yeah.
The interview situation was funky, but he's there. We give him permission to ask questions, but he likes to sit back and relax. That's what he gets paid for, but no, I'm kidding. Win percentages on UDisc. You're a stat guy. UDisc announced right before Worlds, as far as I could tell, in advertising and on their app, that we can now see what win percentages are projected to be at certain points during the round. I think even during live, it'll say, okay, now Kristen Tatar is slated this. Paige has less than a % chance. Like, what do you think about percentage chances being introduced to live disc golf?
I think it's a really fun and engaging way for fans to kind of see what it feels like. I mean, feels that didn't make any sense. To see what the leaderboard like kind of should be like, I guess is a better way to say it. Especially at a course like this where there's a lot of birdies. If you tee off earlier, you could just get hot, be 9 holes in, and then the lead card's on like hole 2, so the leaderboard looks all funky. So it's good to kind of get a sense of where people are at and what players, like Tristan Tanner started off really hot. He wasn't expected to maintain it. So it's an engaging way to kind of know where people stand and what the chances are. If someone makes a huge comeback, it's noteworthy, not just, hey, it was 3 strokes, but hey, they were only predicted to have a 5% chance of winning and they came back and win. So that is all fun and engaging. But before I get into it too much, though, I do want to shout out Will and Doug. They've been doing it all year. In kind of 2 different ways and just recently merged. So Doug's been mapping out every single hole on tour, kind of giving it characteristics and then seeing what players score on that compared to just competitive players and not just all players. And then meanwhile, Will did a Monte Carlo method on round ratings to kind of say, hey, where people are going to shoot. And then they just recently merged their systems and created a really killer system. UDA system kind of seems exactly what they were attacking and announced a couple months ago. And I'm not saying that, they stole the idea, but it's a similar method, which is cool to see. And it's probably a good method. The question I have, though, is it seemed like UDisc was over-favoring consistent players. I think going into the event, we all agree Kristen Tatar was the favorite in FPO. She's been very consistent, finishing on the podium all year long, where Paige and Katrina have been a little bit more sporadic, as we saw this week. But a 58 win percentage going into an event is kind of absurdly high. That's like in a matchup. If you're saying, hey, the New England Patriots versus, the Miami Dolphins, you might say one team has a 58% win percentage. That's normal. I mean, it's going to go even higher. But when you do a field sport where it's one versus many, 58% for one player is unheard of. And maybe Kristen deserves it. I mean, she obviously proved it this week and winning by 8 strokes. But that is a little high. But then what I really question is 9 holes into the event, it jumped up to 85%, which is also really high. But she didn't even have a lead at that point. She was tied with numerous other people. They were all getting started. Halfway through round 4, I believe she had a lead at this point. Barely over Henna. It was really a 2-horse race. Her win percentage was still 85%. And to me, it doesn't really make sense that a person would have the same win percentage or probability, I would say, 9 holes through the tournament with 4.5 rounds left as there would be, 24, 27 holes left in the tournament. They're 2 totally different things, and it seems like it should have moved, and it didn't, which is kind of interesting to me. But I still think it's really good. And the last thing I want to kind of touch on is kind of a scenario to make people kind of understand what I mean by the consistent versus not. If you take a 1040 rated person in MPO and they only shoot 1040 rated rounds, every single round, so this is a complete hypothetical, of course, if they only shoot 1040 rounds, they're not winning a single event on tour in today's game in MPO. Like 0. They're going to finish well every single time. Top 10, maybe some podiums. They're going to be pushing for the win, but never actually get it. Meanwhile, if you have a player who's, let's say, 1010 rated, and they can either shoot 1050, 1060, or 960 or 970 on any given tournament, and really sporadic, even round to round, they have a higher % chance of winning just because they can put up those high rounds and put it together in 1 week. And we saw that with Tristan Tanner. He's a sporadic player. He's 1004 rated, but he really put together a lot of great rounds, and he does have a higher win percentage than, or in my mind, should have a higher win probability percentage than a player who is more consistent. And it feels like this one kind of overdoes consistency, which is really good if you're trying to match top 10s, but I do question it for win percentage. I mean, one name that caught my eye was Matt Oram, had a 12% chance win probability.
Well, I predicted to
before
win, by the way.
Yeah, he had a great event. And if you told me he came in third, I would have absolutely believed it going in. He proved it this week. I don't think a guy who that was his 118th start in Elite Series and majors, and he has 0 wins. He's proved to be a really consistent player. He's been close in the past. He's close now. Incredibly good, iconic player. I wouldn't put him at over 10% to win a tournament. I think his odds are like 2% or less at the beginning of the event. But he's a very consistent player, so that's why he ends up high. He's a high-rated player. He's high in the rankings, all this stuff.
Can I say, for me, my simpleton perspective on this, people in the chat are like, dude, Evan knows what's up, and like they're so impressed. I'll say from my simpleton view, I don't, as a fan, love seeing that. For instance, I'll just pick Paige Pierce or any player that's in 4th or 5th, like less than 1% chance of winning it. I guess if I was looking for that, maybe, but like during the live event, I don't enjoy being like, oh, I guess like should I root for them then? Like they apparently have no chance. It's realistically, statistically 0 chance. Like I don't love that feeling of looking at the event that way. I know it's numbers. Maybe say, well, great, it's less than 1, and watch the story of them winning, and that would be epic, right? That someone predicted them that way. But I don't know. I don't love it myself. But let's go ahead and do this. I used a product today, and I say product because it's something that I've purchased, Max Wax, DG Max Wax. It was supposed to be pouring today, and it did rain. Everything was wet. Evan, Ben, and myself, not Nick, Nick's in Tennessee, we got out for a round at Maple Hill, and it was raining when we started. I reached for my Max Wax in the mini slot. Did you guys see that? Did you observe that at any point, or was I secretive with it?
You were so secretive. Okay. It was slick.
You didn't want to tell us you were getting an advantage.
It's true, actually. I didn't tell you I was using it, but it was in my mini slot in my bag, and I just reached in the mini slot in my bag, and I got a really good feeling, and it felt so grippy on my plastic, not sticky. Grip enhancement. I did use it. It is a product that I use. I would not talk about it if I didn't believe in it. Evan, do you agree it's a product you like?
Yeah, grippy, not sticky is the best way I could ever describe that. You get into such a good rhythm with it, and then you're just confident grip each throw. It's incredible. I love it. It's just a great product.
Nick, it's something that people say should have showed up more on the Pro Tour. We want to see people starting to use it more. Do you think it's a product that will kick off for more touring professionals, or is it already? Do you see things out there like this?
I think everyone's kind of rocking these different dry bags or birdie bags, mitten bags, everything like that. But I don't think a lot of players are using any sort of grip enhancer.
Yeah.
I do think as the off season rolls around, and now that this product is getting a lot more out there, that we will see next year pros use.
Well, we saw
more.
Paul do a whole YouTube episode on grip enhancements, and he's like, "Why aren't more people using this stuff?" And so some of them are really sticky, but I want to say this one is not. Every show I smell it. It smells good and it calms you down. They also have the snap stick in the chapstick size container that is perfect for your pocket. I think that's Evan's favorite version of it, and I think it's just genius. They might send you a sticker with your order. I don't know. Try it out. It's great. The packaging is fantastic. Get percentage off at dgmaxwax.com. Use code Nick and Matt. So as we get close to the point for rounding out the show here, there's a few things I wanted to talk about in relation to Worlds. And one of them is the conversation. I felt like it deserved a little bit because there was quite a bit of social chat about this, is the trophies. And I want to give my little social rant myself here, and I'll let Evan and Nick and Ben respond if they want to.
Let me go second on this one.
Okay, second. I'm interested in Nick's. I've not talked to Nick about this. And so, Nick, if you're different than me, you got to lay it on thick too, okay? I'm going to give my opinion. Okay. Here we go. First of all, I'll start it out by saying this. Players do not play for the trophy. They play for the title. Number one, the players are the people whose opinions really matter here. And by players, I mean anybody who signed up for that event, because that is something that maybe they do want to play for. And if they say, hey, if I win, I want it to be awesome. The players who are signed up, I am not one of them. So I'm going to say but my opinion on that is players don't play for the trophy. So players can tell me if you're wrong. Nick can tell me, anybody else. Like, that's not why they're playing. They're playing for the title, number one. The funny thing is, I'm trying to figure out, why do we rate trophies as fans? And that's because we think that intrinsically, is that the right word? It adds value to what we perceive for the event. So we're saying, like, when we see a tournament that gives away a solid piece of whatever, like a massive geode with something etched into it, these crystals and diamonds, we go, that tells us the title is that valuable. But I can tell you what, trophy or no trophy, Aaron Gossage wins. He doesn't say, oh, this title has no value to it. Absolutely not. But I think the opinions fly because, again, I think that's how we draw our attention to the value of an event. And so if we're hearing world title, we think the trophy should match that. Now, I don't think the players totally feel that way. They wouldn't turn down an insanely diamond-crusted trophy, don't get me wrong. But I don't think at the end of the day they hold that trophy up and they think, this is the value of my win. I think they hold it up proud because of the title that they have won. That's my take. I think events could do better for themselves marketing-wise if they did upgrade their trophies. But I don't think that is inherently what we're trying to accomplish here is trophy quality. Nick, go ahead. Whatever you got.
Yeah, I think those trophies were awful to look at. That's just my personal opinion. They weren't anything special, and they looked like, I don't know, just an average kid made a collage trophy.
Do you want my opinion on what they look
is.
like? I agree. They looked subpar.
Yeah.
I agree.
And they were heavy as all hell.
Okay.
Like they're super heavy.
Okay.
But I don't think a lot of people know, but they also got a glass world trophy, like a glass stand with a glass globe on it. It was in another box, but that also Kristen and Paul both received. And I opened up Paul's. It was pretty sick. That was one of the cooler trophies that I've actually ever seen.
Whoa. So that doesn't get advertised. Interesting.
For some other reason. I don't know why. I don't even know if I was supposed to say that. Maybe I'm not. But at the same time, there was also a really, really cool glass one. I'm not really sure.
Now,
An exclusive announcement.
Yeah, exclusive.
3 times tonight.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm on fire. But the trophy itself, I think, just looked horrible. Like if I was an outside sports person looking into disc golf, I think if I saw that trophy, I'd be like, yo, what the hell? And so Matt, you were saying earlier that, you know, you play for the title and not the trophy. I'm going to be brutally honest. When I go to tournaments, especially like B tier, C tiers, and A tiers, like I play for the title and the trophy. Like one of my favorite things is getting a trophy. And so like I've gotten a sailboat this year. I got a glass one from the A tier that I played, and it was kind of like this glass wrapped one. I've MVP Open Am side. I got like a legitimate looking trophy, which was one of the cooler ones that I've ever seen. And so I'm one of those players who, like, if I go to an event, I want there to be a trophy that's not just a disc with the tournament name on it. Matt, a couple trophies that I own are pictures that you've taken that get put into a frame.
Right.
And I think that's cooler than just getting a disc and putting, you know, first annual
That
bagel
is my
bash.
point.
And
That's my point, though. And I agree. I like the fact that you're pushing back here, but that's my point, Nick. So the quality of the trophy is what I'm saying. You're not playing for it. You said a picture with a frame of the event. Like, you want something to recognize the win by. And I guess I'm trying to say the way that trophy looked, we can all agree it didn't have that major appeal to it. Yeah. But to that individual,
Champions Cup had a cool one. Ryan Lynn just said that Champions Cup actually had a great trophy.
But I guess my point is,
why did we change?
Yeah, no, but I guess my point is, like, at the end of the day, that trophy is what commemorates that win for that player. And whether they go, this is the coolest one or not, they're able to put that up and say, I remember that moment, that win. They don't go, man, I remember the quality of that trophy. It really sucks that I won that event and that's what I got. Like, I don't think that's what's happening. Again, I'll say I think a really cool trophy is really good marketing move for any tournament. And Worlds,
I think it's a little detrimental to where, like, okay, so one of the guys that I was hanging out with all weekend, wicked cool guy, Julian, he's the UFC fighter that's gotten into disc golf recently. Insanely fun person to hang out with. Absolutely loves watching disc golf. And so we were talking about, like, he's an outside celebrity in our sport. And so let's say he didn't know Paul. Let's say he didn't know Ricky or any of them. And he just came to watch. And, like, he sees that that's what the player gets for winning. Like, when he goes on Twitter and says, hey, congratulations to Kristen Tatar and Paul Macbeth, but look at these trophies. Because there are plenty of people who do that. Like, one of the biggest things right now going around is the look of the trophy.
What trophy does a UFC fighter get? Is it belts? I don't know. I know that's boxing.
Yeah, for championship matches they get belts.
So otherwise, like, the winner got $20,000.
A belt would have been cooler than that one.
Well, because that's what we've perceived it to be. But if it, like, my point is, it just depends on the marketing of the event, because they could make, you're right, they could make anything cool. But $20,000 is a pretty good trophy. Like, and the fact that they didn't announce the globe that you're telling us about, that's super insightful. It should be super insightful to everybody. I don't know why they didn't market that better. So like, I can see all sides of this. I can see all sides of it. And I'm just saying though, I don't see it as a big deal personally.
When Paul's Worlds video comes out eventually, because I know he had a camera crew out there filming it. When that Worlds video comes out, at the end of it, I kind of like jokingly open it up, and if they leave it in there, then you'll actually get to see what that one looks like.
Shattered on the ground.
It's really cool.
Whoops.
It was definitely one of the cooler ones that I've seen. And like Ledgestone, or excuse me, D-Glow, I think back in 2018 when Paul hit the perfect round year, like I think I had that trophy for a while, and someone else might have it now, or it's at my parents' house, something like that. But it's this massive glass one. I think the glass trophies are easily the coolest ones in disc golf.
Someone said earlier, glass blown open, previously on those courses, and Eagle found the glass that was blown open.
Good God.
Nice. All right. So I just want to say, because it's a world show and we're getting ready to wrap up, in the past 15 years, since McBeth went pro, has there been anyone else who has helped propel the sport forward more? Now, you can't give one person credit, but if Paul McBeth was not in the sport, are we even close to where we are today? Is there even any conversation about that? The way that this guy drives. I mean, the Paul McBeth Foundation now installing as much as it has for courses. All of his winnings go there. I think that's still a thing. I think that was this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
he's at 70,000 already, which is pretty sick.
Yeah. Well, doing fantastic.
Eagle said he didn't even get a trophy for European Open.
Oh, Eagle's in here?
That's he's
still listening?
That's crazy.
Eagle.
Barsby gets an axe and he gets air.
Okay, so Eagle
Well, Barsby got it from Sula Open. So
I know. I'm just saying,
and that was cool. I'm not saying trophies aren't cool. Like, I think I want a good trophy. But my point is, if you go, Matt, if the trophy's not good, do you still want to play for the title? Everyone says, yes, I want the world title. That's what Paul said. Like, everyone wants that. I agree. You can roast me all you want, guys. I think a cool trophy is a spectacular thing, and I think that marketing for events should do that better. But at the end of the day, there was a trophy. Nick said it was heavy, and that's something to be said for it.
Which one?
I don't know.
Oh,
you said they were heavy.
The world's one.
But
I'm
anyways,
pretty sure it was just a bunch of aluminum put together.
But I guess my point is McBeth has done a lot for the sport, and apparently Eagle didn't get anything at the European Open for trophy-wise.
So I played a C tier this year out in Pennsylvania, and I won it. And I got no trophy. And I was like, whatever. It was a C tier out in Pennsylvania.
But it rubbed
like,
you
I
wrong.
understand that. I was kind of sad. I was ready to roast them the next week on the podcast. But I was like, you know what? It's a C tier. I'll let it slide.
It's also Pennsylvania.
Dude, if I won a freaking major and didn't get a trophy for it, like, I'm sorry. But
all right, we got to get Eagle back in here.
No, it's too late.
I'm kidding. That was a joke.
No, any opportunity
my
to
girlfriend's
Eagle.
cooking
Eagle,
food.
no,
I need to
actually, we do love you.
off.
We would have you back on, but we've been going over 2 hours. This is a hot. Where's Evan? Did he drop? Or
I
just,
think Evan's not.
No, I'm right here.
He's here.
This is intern Ben Evan. Did you pay him for lunch today? I mean, did he pay? I don't know. What's going on.
I paid him.
All right.
You guys were just talking. Evan was just silent.
Hey, you guys were going, and I was just like, yeah.
All right. Here's a hot take, and it's a question that should never be asked, but I'm going to do it. Will Paige Pierce ever win another FPO world title if the same field is present from here on out?
Yes.
Yes? You're saying she can.
I think she will.
You think she will with the same field that's present?
I think she will. I think Kat will win one more. I think Paige will win 1 or 2 more. But I also think Kristen will win like 2 or 3 more very easily too.
We don't need to debate it. I mean, if everyone else's reaction is that in the world, and that's fair. And I think it's probably deservedly so. But you got to wonder when they're playing at their best, who's better when they're playing at their best, right? But okay, so how about Paul McBeth? Does he win a 7th title one day?
Yeah.
It's getting harder. This victory, Evan goes, the victory this year, and we didn't ask Paul because he wasn't on. We'll try to line that up. Is it the most accomplished? And I don't mean like, what does it mean in his career? I mean, the most accomplished competitively. Evan, do you have stats on that?
Yeah, so we did a fun thing because we were looking at if Aaron Gossage happened to win, like what would that mean? And he would have had one of the fewest events played in MPO before winning since like DOS in 05. But then we flipped it the other way around, just like out of curiosity, who's played the most events before winning Worlds. And it was actually, before this year, was Barsby in 2018 with 335 MPO events played prior to that World Championship in 2018. McBeth right now, or sorry, before Worlds, is at 359. So now he becomes essentially the most veteran, is how we're kind of wording it, most veteran player to ever win a world championship. As in played the most MPO events of all tiers before. It beats out Climo in 06 as well, who was at 322. I'm sure that'll be what people think of as well.
Interesting. But you're saying on if he does it again because it is turning into he's a veteran and the competition field is getting stronger, right?
I was going to lead that into I think he's washed. You know, he's only won 2 events this year.
He just wins. Wash up.
No, I think it, like, honestly, until Paul falls off a cliff at Worlds, as in what we saw at DDO, what we've seen at a few other events where he's just kind of missing from the leaderboard and then has that one run to get in the top 20, but he was really missing from the entire event. Until he does that at Worlds, I'm not counting him out of a possibility for a win. He might not be the favorite. He might not be exactly number 2, but he's going to be one of your top 3-4 players.
Where's Worlds next year?
Ooh. Isn't it GMC, baby? Not GMC, Smuggler's Notch.
Who's won at GMC before?
Nick Carl.
Once.
One time, that's all it takes.
One time, that's true.
With it. I actually have won at GMC before.
That's
the
what I'm saying.
Bruce Ridge Open.
Compared to like the 6 times he's won in Kansas.
Stay tuned, everybody.
No, I'm with you. He was second, obviously, because those Worlds in the last 10 years. He was second when it was in 2018. He charged. Actually, we posted a fun graphic about how this was actually the largest final round comeback in Worlds ever at 3 strokes. And Barsby comments, good thing I had 5 strokes on him in 2018.
Yeah.
Because Paul came charging back to, I think, lose by 2. So he did get 3 strokes back. Yeah.
Anthon.
Okay. I have one more question for Worlds. And first, I'm going to answer a chat question, which has nothing to do with Worlds. Someone said, Nick and Ben versus Matt and Evan, who wins? And I would say, to be more fair, just because I know our skill levels, it should be Nick and Evan. No, not after today.
Whoa!
Not after
today.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Nick and Evan, yes.
Not after today.
I smoked you. I'll take it, though. I'll be on Nick's team for sure.
Evan beat me today, fair and square.
Yeah, but it was...
I didn't just beat you. I beat Ben, too.
Ben,
the MA2 champion.
Okay,
we got all excited. Ben has been performing at a high level for himself lately, so I just
that
felt
was
like
Ben's
shifting.
First time ever beating me in a tournament. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, just Nick versus us, best shot threesome. Okay, I just did that for fun there. Sorry, everybody. I liked how that
Me and Matt take all. Even the Bogey Bros, we challenge you. Me and Matt. Come on now.
This is the last one that I have lined up. I mean, there's still other news out there and things that haven't been announced, and we're not getting to everything under the sun. But when it comes down to World Championships, clutch moments, hole 17's sequence of events, drive 1 should not be a part of it on hole 17. But the sequence of events that led to that and led to Paul getting the birdie and what statistically should have been Aaron getting a stroke on Paul. Paul got a stroke on Aaron. That event to me, and I know Aaron, I don't know if you're still listening, absolutely nothing condemning here for you, but I do feel like in some ways Paul stole it from Aaron at that moment. That's why I kind of brought it up. How did he feel? So I felt like that happened.
All right, hole 17. Paul throws a drive, and like Aaron said, there's no possible way he birdies it. Even after throwing the upshot, Aaron says there's no possible way he birdies it. Aaron threw probably one of the filthiest drives on that hole.
Absolutely.
But then, and this isn't a slight at Aaron, the dude absolutely murdered it, but he threw a bad shot on his second shot.
Yes.
Like he threw it to like 60, 65 feet, right? Maybe 50, 55. But like he had every opportunity to absolutely pin that basket. And like you didn't know where Paul was. And I'm pretty sure on UDisc it said that he was on the fairway after 2 throws. So like he's not even technically putting for birdie. So yeah, Paul took it in that moment, but also Aaron kind of gave it to him in the sense of like that second shot where his drive was, every player in the tournament would take that drive 10 times out of 10. So I will say there's a little bit of that, but then Aaron, I mean, to be honest, Paul Aaron took it right back.
Paul absolutely had no other choice. There was zero choice of what he had to do. So I guess it doesn't change how Paul plays is my point. And he didn't know how Aaron was going to throw. But to say stole it, maybe I see your opinion, like as your point, like Aaron kind of gave it there a little bit too.
It wasn't like James Conrad in 2021 where he stole the show on that final shot.
Is this number 2 when it comes to Worlds with the way it flopped at the end? Do we have Worlds in the recent history where it was back and forth down to the last hole like that going to a playoff? There's not many. And when you think of it, like Ricky and Paul and these other battles, like it goes like It didn't happen that way where
It was
somebody
8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2014 might be the last one I think of.
Well, 2014, they also played Worlds with 6 rounds in a final 9 or 7 rounds in a final 9. Like Paul came back, I think like 6 to 8 strokes in the last 2 rounds or round and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Like Paul, that's why when Evan came out with that quote saying like this was the biggest comeback, I thought 2014 was, but I think it was his semifinals round where he had a stupidly big comeback in that round to even put himself in contention in the final 9.
I guess I'm making this point, and maybe I don't have a foundation to stand on, but that sequence of events has to go down, at least in our memories, as like elite top. I had to think to myself, the amount of people I heard saying, you do not understand how hard that drive was, makes me realize I don't understand how hard that, like, meaning that upshot was. Nick, you were there. I mean, everybody, the elite are saying like, it's the best thing under the sun. Like,
I'll give you one of the best quotes that I've heard about it.
Okay.
John Tompkins was on Paul's bag this week.
Right.
Now, if you guys don't know, John Tompkins is the kid that was on Paul's bag from 2012, 13, 14, and 15. Watched him win 4 in a row. They're best friends from California. He used to own Supreme Plate. He's the absolute man. So anyway, so he's caddying for Paul. He watched Paul line up that shot and was kind of like, well, if Paul thinks he can do it, then he can do it. Tompkins said right after that shot, and we were done celebrating on hole 16, whatever, like after we were all hanging out, he said that was probably top 2 or 3 greatest shots that he's ever seen Paul throw. And to do it in that situation. So I think it was, you just had him at like 550 or 510 to get to the basket. And he probably threw that like 475 to 500 feet just on an absolute rope carrying OB the whole time. If he throws at OB right there, he loses the tournament. Aaron's your 2022 Disc Golf World Championship. But the fact that he had flipped it up to flat perfectly, got the ever so slightest turn, got the skip at the end, and then made the massive 68 or 69 foot putt, whatever it was. 70-foot putt. I mean, like I said, Tompkins, who had the best view out of anyone in the world, saw that shot and literally said that was probably top 2 or 3 shots that he's ever seen Paul throw.
And what I want to say,
situation. Yeah, go Evan.
It is like Brian Earhart on the call was fantastic. Like he kind of mapped up exactly what Paul needed to do and kind of said how hard this shot was. He's like, it's going to be incredible if he does this exact thing.
Yeah, he did.
Paul steps up, does that exact thing, and then you're like, oh my goodness! Like Brian just said how hard it was going to be and said what he's going to do, and he does it, and now he's got a look. And I think that was fantastic. And I mean, like Brian's call was very good. If I'm remembering it right, I mean, I just remember being blown away and being like, wow, like, yeah, nice.
Yeah. I do. Now we're getting off topic a little bit here, but Earhart's commentary or insight is, I love it. We got to get Brian back on here.
Earhart's awesome.
His insight is so good because he's able to say what's pretty accurate. Like you just said, Evan, like he's able to go, I know Paul's game. And he knows a lot of players' games, and he says, I know like what it's going to take to do this, and he gives it a level of like, this is very unlikely or highly unlikely or probable, and like he's nailing it. So excellent thing here. What worlds we got. I thought we were going to have Paul on tonight, and we were going to get some of these questions answered. I feel like I do not want to promise anything. I do know a little bit that they're going to work to get tech situation figured out. I don't know when that will be. Either we try to line them up soon, as in tomorrow, the next day. Next day, stay tuned. We'll try. Maybe it's next week. We'll figure it out. And we've always got MVP week. I can't promise anything there either. MVP open week, sorry, where we might get in-person guests in studio. And we can line up a lot of guests. We've done it before. I think it's possible that Kristen Tatar maybe is lined up in studio come that week. She'll be around, and it'll be the easiest way to get a hold of her. All that being said, we've probably missed a lot. You've probably been yelling at your screens or your podcast saying, you didn't talk about this. Leave us a comment or chat or reach out to us, and maybe we can add it to our next conversation points. Anything else, Ben? Intern Ben, did we miss anything?
No, I got nothing. Awesome show.
Thanks for lining up Aaron like that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I tried my best.
You need to build your Rolodex of contacts. So
Aaron just randomly followed me. He had like 500 followers. Like it was like last year. And he randomly followed me because I followed him, and now he's big time, and he still hasn't unfollowed me. So appreciate Aaron. Thanks for following me.
Yeah, I know. One of the things that people are going to talk about, and when we have Paul on, he can talk about it. But him just talking about the Climo situation, just saying like how a lot of the greatest of all times are still very heavily involved in their sport. with Climo not really being involved in our sport anymore. I'm not going to hash anything out on that because I actually
let him
don't know
do that.
Climo at all.
We'll let him.
He's going to do all that, but I know that's something that a ton of people were asking about earlier. We're going to let Paul talk about that when Paul eventually does come on the podcast.
My quick take is that it wasn't a jab. It wasn't trying to be disrespectful. My take was it was at surface value what it was. Okay.
He literally said, I wish Kenny would just be more present.
But we want to dig into it. We want to dig
It's not even that a dig.
Maybe he was talking about me, though. My last name's Kenny. I think Paul wants to say
Ben, I'm just going to be honest. You're not the GOAT, though.
All right.
For a second there, I thought it.
We've got a lot coming up. I'm playing an event for once coming up here soon. I even got to look at the date.
I'm playing with you.
When is it? Next weekend?
This weekend. Come on now.
Like as in like
this weekend.
Like the 9th.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, what event?
Holy smokes. I got to take off the work day. I've been playing ahead. Okay, this is...
Am-side, sorry.
Okay, this is literally the last segment here. If you've made it this far, I'm going to ask for your help. I passed this on to Evan and Ben earlier. Nick, you can help me. I am playing the am side, and I'm going to say this with all privacy included to this. Simon is getting married. Everybody knows that. He's posted in social media. He's talked about it in interviews. I have been privileged enough to be his friend, and I have been invited to the wedding.
Invite me, Simon, please. Okay. I beg you.
No, Simon, I do not mean to do anything that Simon doesn't want. Talk about his wedding, nothing else. This is purely why I bring this up. The AM side MVP Open AM side event that I am playing in, that I've played in every year since its inception, and I even played the Vibram Open before the AM side was a thing. So like I played it every year. It's this weekend apparently, Ben tells me, and I have a question. My round starts on Friday. That's not wedding day. If I play good on Friday, Nick and listeners, I'm going to have a later tee time on Saturday. The later tee time I have will make it so I cannot attend the wedding, which is not going to happen. Okay, I'm going to go to the wedding. I value the friendship there. My question is, can I find it within myself, and should I, round one, to not play my best disc golf so I get an early tee time on Saturday? Or
I'm going to stop you there.
Should I play the best I can? I play the best I can.
Yeah.
And if I play the best I can and it's not good enough and I get an early tee time, great. If I play the best I can and it's fantastic, then I bow out of the event and say, I'm proud of myself. Is that how you would handle it, Nick?
No, I mean, I'm skipping like 5 different tournaments to go spend the whole, wedding. Like Greater Hartford Open's going on, Nantucket Open.
So you're just not
in Virginia
playing.
That I could be going to. I'm just not playing any of them.
Steve
no, he invited me to the wedding. I'm going to the
you
wedding.
Can't shift. I could talk to Steve. You can't shift round two. I played well. Let me go off the beginning.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Are they doing it? Is it one round?
Yes. So it's very possible.
So it's not,
this is
it's
why
not
I haven't
1-2-1 anymore?
Right. This is why I haven't dropped it, is because there's the potential there that I play my rating and everything works out where I play every round. It's a tee time event.
What time does his wedding start?
Well, we're not talking about that now. People do weird stuff.
I don't even know.
People do weird
guys,
stuff.
His wedding's in Florida.
Yeah.
Don't you
People do weird stuff. We're not putting that
why do you
down.
think I'm in Nashville?
Yeah. But exactly. But here's the point. I already brought this up to Simon. He looked at me like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, obviously, dude, I'm coming to your wedding. I'm just like playing it out. And so I'm going to play the best I can. That's my take. I'm going to play the best I can. And if it's not good enough, then hey, I get the best of both worlds.
What layout are you playing first?
Blue, and then diamond, and then gold.
Well, hopefully it doesn't snow again this year.
3 feet of snow. Yeah. We've made it late enough.
Crazy.
Anyways, that was just to throw it out there for people. Cool. Everyone's saying, play your best. Don't tank. Playing bad for a purpose. Give the spot to someone else. Listen, the chances that I play my rating, and then, like I said, it's fine. So it's not like, okay. Anyways, just
or you're leading after round one.
Or what? Or what, Nick?
I said, or just, show up to the wedding late.
Stephanie would kill me. She's like, no, we're going on time, and you're not going to push it. Fine. She's like, you're not going to put it close. You're going to be early. Okay. Anyways, that's apparently, and I'm glad I brought that up. Dude, I literally did not realize it was this weekend. Yeah. I knew that the wedding and that lined up, but this is how out of the loop I am with my case.
The wedding's in Florida on
I better get my plane
Tuesday.
ticket.
Sunday.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Great show. Nick, you close us out. It's been a while since we've done a show together.
Yeah, I know, right? Holy cow, I feel like it has been. Anyways, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Sorry about the whole debacle of not being able to get Paul on. Just crappy technical difficulties, and I feel their pain because I used to live with them, and I know exactly what they're going through.
Apparently it was worse,
that,
lightning strike or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, months and months ago, lightning struck their house, and it burned the modem, and they travel so much that they literally haven't been able to fix it. And anyways, long story short, he'll be on soon. I know he actually really did want to come on tonight. Him and I have been talking about it since he won the World Championships. But anyways, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Ben, for getting Gossage on tonight, and then Eagle jumping in the crowd. Don't forget to hit the like button. So many of you already have, but if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that like button. And then don't forget to follow us on all your favorite podcast platforms. Tell someone you love them this week. We'll catch you in the next one.
That's right. Nick, it's great to have you back. You're awesome. Ben, you're awesome. Evan, you're awesome. Peace out, everybody.
The Nick and Matt Show, a disc golf podcast designed for you, the disc golfer. Find the Nick and Matt Show on your favorite podcast platforms or join the conversation live on YouTube.